Happy Monday, except it's Tuesday. And welcome back to Retake the Week. Yeah, I'm not going to update the graphic. I know we missed yesterday. It was our travel day back from Budapest. I got back to my flat at 5 p.m. Obviously, we weren't going to run the show from that point onwards. Save it for today. Give us a chance to recover. My voice was even worse yesterday. Today it's going to be a bit iffy, patchy. Yesterday I was barely able to make any sort of sense or sound. So good thing we did wait, because, what's the point? What's the point of having a podcast where you're only listening to Quack? Like, what would be the point? Like, no offense, mate, but I'm not just set dressing, Could be, but I'm not. So anyway, yes, we're back. It was a big Budapest Grand Final, etc. Vitality win. We're going to get into all that good stuff. We're going to talk about everything, break it all down, slice up 100 different ways as well. But before we do, we're going to change the stream so that it's not for members only, so that people actually watch it. Good job, whoever's running production. And we're also going to thank the members themselves, because yes, the members are awesome. They make a lot of things possible, including the publishing of these shows on Spotify. The Retake the Week and the Double Swing both go onto my Spotify. So if you are an audio-only kind of person, not a fan of looking at me, looking at Quack, or you just want to use less bandwidth, because I assume Spotify podcasts use less bandwidth, head on over to Spotify, look up, I think if you just search Kingt CS2, you might find it. If you look up the Double Swing, you might find it. If you look up Retake the Week, you will hopefully find it. Like, there should be on there. I don't know what the easiest way is, but the podcast is there. The thumbnail of the podcast is my big ugly face. So, yeah, if you're a Spotify person, there you go. If you're not, well, awesome. So you can still thank the members. They're great. And if you want to join them, go ahead. I would really appreciate it. So, yeah, that's everything, Quack. Any promo on your end? Anything to apologize for?
Supposedly I was having outrageous takes in the members-only content. I'm not sure I did.
We apologize. Right. We apologize to the real MVP, because you did.
Yes. No, I did. Fucking hell, Jesus. I have a lot to promo. We had a lot of good content on Fragbite. Some of it was serious, some of it was less serious. If you want to see how the major was from my perspective, that's on Fragbite. All of our socials, we posted the videos, TikToks, Instagrams, everything. Where it's that's my experience of the major. I was able to interview both Brawlhalla and Apex, which was amazing fun. And there's more stuff coming in the week, which is even more stuff I managed to get while I was there. So that's my promo. It's already done pretty good numbers. Like, I'm happy with that. Obviously, it's a major, but like, I'm happy. I'm very happy with what I've done. But yeah, it's, if you've missed it, you can see some shots from the stadium. You can find a couple of videos asking, who's going to win the major, who's going to be MVP, who's going to be Player of the Year. Those are up. Those were very fun, with some interesting community members actually who appeared in those, and that was fun. And and the interviews themselves. One of them is in English. It's the one with Apex. It's very short. I was the last person to do an interview with anybody from Vitality, and when Matthew was telling Apex, he said, "Oh, Fragbite, 4 questions, whatever that is in French."
Question.
Question. Okay, question. 4 questions. And Apex went like this. Oh, and then like I'm standing 2 feet away from him, and he's like, oh, and then he's like, oh, hello, nice to meet you. Like, this was, but that was surreal. I was shaking for a long time after that, but I'm happy that I got to do that. I'm happy I got to ask some good questions, and yeah, we'll talk more about that from inside the press room later, from my experience for that. But yeah, in short, that's my promo. Go check out all of the Fragbite stuff, which I've been putting out from Budapest this weekend.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Let's get into the show then. So, that's going to be the focus of this event, of this retake. Obviously, it's going to be the big major playoffs. We were there. We had a decent time, right? Not a bad time.
Very good time.
Pretty enjoyable. Let's do that. There we go. Lovely. The playoffs retake. So, yes, Vitality champions again of the major, back-to-back major winners. The first time since, you're the history nerd, 2019, is it?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. So it's been a good 6 years since anyone's managed to do this. And I'm going to be honest. The second the quarterfinals finished, they became ridiculously heavy favorites to do it. Like, it could have been, in terms of, like, if we look at the full bracket, the prospective games, I did say ahead of time, no matter who wins what game, pretty much without fail, I think it's a good playoff bracket. Now, in that sense, as far as teams to challenge Vitality, who were playing their best possible CS, like, it looks like the Vitality that won 7 straight events in this playoff bracket. To challenge them, FaZe Clan was not my pick. You know? The loosey-goosey nightmare of FaZe Clan was not what I'd hoped for, especially with Jacob not actually playing that great a playoff. That was not ideal. Like, he had a couple good maps. He had a good map in the quarterfinal, he had a good map in the semi, and everyone technically got a good rating on Nuke. But overall, you know, a slightly underpowered FaZe Clan is not who I wanted to see. So, yeah, we're in a bit of an awkward spot when you're in the grand final and watching it, and you're like, this feels like a slaughter waiting to happen. And then Nuke happens, and you're like, oh, there's a chance. The door cracked open.
Yes.
And from that point onwards, anything was possible, really. I didn't think Overpass was a map where FaZe would have a single chance. But I thought Dust 2 can always be competitive in theory. And Inferno, FaZe like Inferno. Like, that's a map that actually could make this series close, fun, potentially go to 5.
Yes.
But instead, Inferno, they get a massive Rops and Mezzi at Vitality, like just holding down bomb sites, clutching out and closing out rounds. They were both fantastic in that grand final, but especially on that Inferno was one of the key maps where they had to be. Then Overpass, yeah, one-sided, complete run over, trained right through them. Like, it was unbelievable how easy Vitality made it look. And Rops, of course, was fantastic in that map to close it all out. So, all in all, you could call it an underwhelming final, but I think it was a pretty cool playoff overall. Some really great performances from players and teams we didn't expect. And honestly, I'm happy with it. It could have been better. I understand the complaints, but I'm happy with it. Quack, you happy with it?
I haven't seen a lot of complaints about any of the major games. I've
seen a lot of complaints about the grand final specifically.
I don't think any of them are super valid, to be honest. I think the least interesting games we had on weekend was, or the least interesting game was Vitality Mongols. It was always going to be a Vitality win, I think, but I think maybe some people expected a slightly bigger fight put up by Mongols. But going from the top there, like, I think that was a very good final. It was a very good experience in the arena because FaZe were such big crowd favorites. Nobody expected them to be there, and yet the entire arena was cheering for FaZe pretty much. It felt that way anyway. So, like, the rounds they won and everything, it was amazing to see, to experience that. And yeah, the fact that they win Nuke, if we're starting with the final, the fact that they win Nuke, I think is...
We're not actually meant to. I've realized, I looked at my own show notes, like, I wasn't meant to start with the final, but let's get broad strokes, then we'll get back to it.
Yeah, I'll save my more detailed analysis then, but I thought it was a great final. I think every game was pretty great. It was just that Vitality Mongols game, which was a bit of a blowout, a bit boring. I'm not sure I agree with you that Vitality were clear favorites as soon as they beat Mongols, because Spirit, I think should have won that semifinal because they had the lead on both maps. They had the upper hand, especially the first map. They had, I don't know how many map points, and they couldn't close it. And it is to the point where, like, Spirit should have won that game, in my opinion. And honestly, I said on the show I think Spirit were going to win the major, which was basically like before the playoffs, which was basically, you know, if a Furia don't win, I think Spirit win. And I kept, as soon as they beat Falcons, I was still on board with that. I was still entirely on board with Spirit winning the major. So yeah,
the problem is,
do you want to start with the quarterfinals?
Yeah, we'll get into specifically Spirit Vitality, of course, when we talk semis. I stand behind the idea that even though Spirit, you know, had that win in the quarterfinal, which we'll start with, it didn't make them favorites over Vitality and over Fury. It didn't make them a favorite even in the matchup, specifically just Vitality. Like, for me, it was, we entered this major with 3 clear top teams, and that someone of the ilk of Spirit would have to go through multiple of them, probably, to win it, and it'd be an incredible, fantastic run if they made it happen. And they started, yes, with that game against Falcons, which was, for me, a massive letdown, just in terms of Falcons not performing in the way I hoped they would. Like, we start on Nuke. It's the map pick of Falcons. And on their T side, everything just looked poorly executed. Like, when we see the highlights out of Zwei, it's like, Zwei with this crazy ace hold on the A-bomb site. And I'm like, if you watch his POV, the man is unbothered by any form of execute, like in so many of these rounds. And when there are execs, they're not that comprehensive. They're not that well run in terms of timings. There's several of them where it's like, oh, that guy swung. Next swing. Oh, now the Hut players have decided to fucking show up. Like, it was all a bit, unfortunately, Falconsy. In the way we've talked historically about this team or players on this team underperforming in that big game, in the big, especially major playoff, the mental seemed a bit off. The way they played their Nuke T-side just wasn't up to snuff, and they got absolutely crushed by it. Zwei, massive overperformance. We've seen it, though, since then, when the other team does know how to run an exec. All of a sudden, he's not Deus Ex Machina. He's just a guy with an M4A4. Right, so I think there was, more than anything, it was Falcons disappointed me, especially on map 1. Map 2, we saw some fight, especially out of Nico. But overall, they were just... Spirit are a really good Dust 2 team. They found a way, they kept pushing, and it got done. So it's really Nuke that lets it all down. Because if Nuke, they play a proper, strong sort of T-side, make it competitive, or at least... I know, they can still lose 2-0 without me complaining like this, you know what I mean? Like, they could have still had a really strong showing and lost 2-0. That's possible. You're playing Spirit, a team with, like, crazy firepower, who I predicted the second they came together would win everything and start a new era, blah, blah, blah. Like, they've been disappointing, but we know they're talented. We know they're good. We know the potential's there. So losing a 2-0 is fine. It's just, you can't lose your map pick like that. You can't. You had 4 days to learn how to run an exec. How'd you not? Like, pull it off. It was frustrating.
I think the game could have been better. I think you're right that Falcons could have put up a bigger fight. I'm not surprised by the outcome. Part of the reason why I said Spirit we're gonna do this is because I was just expecting like a bullshit overperformance from players like Zwei and Tenier, which we did get for parts of the playoff. Parts of that Vitality series, I felt like this is a Tenier that we were hoping to see.
Yeah.
Which we hadn't seen up until that point. It was, if Spirit had actually done media after losing that semifinal, it's one of the questions I would have asked. What's the key here? But it's the same thing with Zwei in the quarterfinal. The Zwei ace, which is like pretty amazing. You're right. You watch it back. First frag, it's a bad Molotov, which he manages to get past, and Tessus is not looking. Immediately after, Kixan just decides to dry swing, and of course Zwei is still holding. He has that aim. He's obviously cracked. He's going to win that fight.
He's got that reaction aim, but also Kixan doesn't have the first bullet to really take that fight on that timing.
Yeah.
Like if you're having someone who really disconnected swing out and you need a hope and a prayer they're going to hit the headshot, I don't want that guy doing that swing to be Kixan. In a major playoff, the only player who's like a bad player who can take that fight is somehow Carrigan, because somehow Carrigan would hit that headshot. You know what I mean? Like in the major playoff run, you see that kind of thing. But otherwise, he's just not the aimer you need taking that swing.
No, and it's and then third frag, he's exiting Hut Kyosuke. Honestly, that's maybe the most impressive frag of them all, because it's Kyosuke is holding him and he still wins that fight. But then Nico just walks out of Hut, easy frag, and then Munisi is the final guy who swings from main and is not even looking because he's focused on the other guy. Cool ace, but it's not a massive round, like, and it sort of encapsulates how like statistically it's a huge overperformance, but I tested it didn't feel like Zwei was all that good. It just felt like Falcons were a bit shit. But
like the Dust 2, oh my god, the Dust 2 ace, where they're trying to do like the lurk smoke exec, you walk the lurk smoke and as you get contact you exec. Instead, they just kept walking the lurk smoke in different places and you just kept killing them. I was like, fucking help me. This is brutal.
Yeah.
Like, no one's actually entering. There's no actual flash. They've just wasted time till they've decided to come to this final, finish. Like, there's no real cohesive round. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there are a lot of places where the Falcons T-side looked exactly like the Falcons T-side everyone complains about. When you talk, like a lot of analysts, when they talk about how Falcons have problems, why they have problems, and you watch their games, you're like, it's this map. it's this match, this best of three, is why people hate the Falcons T side, and why people talk about how Nico teams are going to suffer. Like we saw on Dust 2, missed mid smokes. We saw on Nuke, relatively poor util management. Like some final execs were just too dry. Like there wasn't enough there to help out. And it's a complaint you have about bad T sides all the time, right? Like if you actually go back through history, Nico's G2 teams at various points were terrible on Inferno, despite loving to play it on T side, because they'd constantly try to exec with too little utility, because they'd wasted a bunch of time in util doing fuck knows what, and then when it came to the final exec, just lose. So yeah, I didn't want it to look like this. I wanted to see the Falcons that are more inspired in the mid round, find more playmaking. The Dust 2, this was a detail that frustrated me. Spirit were able to sit in a 2-man B site setup pretty much the entire, not the literal entire half, but at least 6-7 rounds straight going into OT, like in OT as well, because the mid pressure was never realized. Like there was no real threat from mid, and there was no real problems to be dealt with in terms of controlling the mid space, because the splits were ineffective, the final execs were ineffective, there was no real lurks to worry about. Falcons basically poked and prodded, like when you're trying to wake someone up who's going to smack you, like usually going to just slightly poke them. Then was like, okay, fuck it, we've done the poking, now it's time to go finish in the bomb site. It was poor. So yeah, understandably, Spirit got a lot of credit going into the semi-final, but I do think a big part of the story is simply Falcons underperformed.
Yeah. And that game could have been better in that sense. I'm not unhappy with the result. I'm not unhappy with the way the game went. After all that, there is still a comeback from Spirit on Dust 2, which it was exciting, and it was a bit exciting to watch. So yeah,
they need a comeback technically, because on CT side themselves, Falcons looked solid. Like that Dust 2 CT side was Monacy was good, Nico was good. Kyosuke's volatile, but had some really big impact. And then after that, they win Pistol. So yeah, it's the nature of MR12 means they then need a monumental fucking comeback.
Yeah, they win Pistol and the following 3 rounds, because Spirit went down 5-11 and then they won the map 16-12. It was a good comeback. But yeah, I'm not unhappy about that game. But yeah, it could have gone better. The second game of that day was Vitality Mongols. Maybe we should.
This
is honestly it. This is brief.
It was so wank. Like Vitality entered playoffs looking like, the old Vitality of earlier this year. Despite the fact that they lost a BO1 on Nuke to FaZe, ignoring that part, they were pretty comfortable the rest of the way through the Swiss. The Na'Vi game was a bit of a thriller. Like they shouldn't have been that close, but generally they looked pretty comfortable. And they faced the Mongols, who didn't look... They had a surprisingly good win over G2. Then got on the major stage, and controllers immediately just shat the bed. And that's it. That's game. Like, if you're the Mongols, they aren't as, like, explicitly, we're trying to make controllers the star flash from everything. They're not quite as literal with that. They have progressed since those first couple of events, but...
Yeah.
The fact that controllers goes to utter shite is a big problem for them. And Vitality this is the best games Zywoo plays of the major. But despite that, it's not like he's a one-man army type thing. There's still, Rops is really good. He has a 1v3. Mezzy plays pretty well. Everything that Vitality typically want to happen, happened. And Mongols got the one thing that couldn't. The individuals, not named Mazzinho, because Mazzinho, my little goat, fell off a cliff. And so here we are. We end up with this situation where they get utterly trounced, and it wasn't a contest. You got to stop this one after map 1. Like, map 2 was just brutal.
Yeah, I had a very funny one of the videos we were able to put out. One of the more casual videos was I ran into Fi and I asked him some questions. And I thought it was so funny. The raw footage of this is really funny, and it's like, my first question is, who do you think wins the major? Furia! Who's gonna be major MVP? Controllers! Which is, it's just Fi. The next question was, who do you think is gonna be player of the year? A come from behind victory for Techno 4K. Yeah, this guy. Love that game. Anyway, it's a Wimprov game. I don't honestly remember a lot from this game, to be honest.
Honest, there's a Rops clutch, but everything else is just, you know how the joke is
Yeah,
always that
yeah.
Zyru's a boring player, right? That's essentially like Vitality are a boring team, just because like they just won. Like it was so easy. It was like what's the word? The word has escaped me, but it was plain as day, by the book. Like they just won. They were just better.
Yeah. So yeah, it is that Rops clutch. That's the one thing I remember now that you mentioned.
Yeah.
But yeah, even that isn't that good. Like he gets a free bomb plant and then it's a 1-on-2. Like yeah, it's fine. But yeah,
it is a 1v3. That's just like cool. It's a 1v3. It's not. It's honestly, it might be. We'll get to that other 1v3 in a sec.
It's a pretty run of the mill 1-on-3. Like he gets one frag, which gives him, he has the bomb, he has free reign to go to B side. Then it's a 1-on-2 on a retake. It's pretty run of the mill for a T side 1-on-3. But yeah, let's just move on. Mongols were never gonna do anything here. I'm pretty sure. Like people were saying that, I saw some people say that like the most boring outcome would be like Vitality Navi or Vitality FaZe being the final and Vitality just walking there. And that's kind of what happened. I would be very upset, honestly, if Mongols made it past Vitality in this game. As much as I am an upset enjoyer, I would genuinely be a bit disappointed if that ruins the semifinal. If they somehow made a winning run, then yeah, that's legendary. But like, if this game wasn't a Vitality win, I would have been upset.
I would have been mostly just confused. Because even when Mongols have their full roster, I don't see them as the team that can beat Vitality. Even when Vitality are not really winning everything. Like that's, to me, a big shock by itself. Then with controllers, I'm like, this version, I'm like, no, there's no chance. You should not be winning this game.
You don't see them as that team, but they did do it twice.
Yeah, that's all well and good. Season. That's all well and good. I'm not saying they didn't. It's just matchup wise, it just doesn't feel like a team that they should be beating.
It doesn't feel like it. They somehow do it anyway, and I think that maybe reflects more on Vitality in the way that those games were maybe not Mongols wins, it was Vitality losses.
Yes.
Yeah.
All Vitality losses are not the other team winning. It's Vitality losing only. Yes.
This is true.
That is how it works.
That is how it works. Second day, though, we got a couple of bangers, to be honest. First game was Mouse FaZe, so we can start with that.
Was that the first game of the day?
It was, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Yeah, when you're watching from home, it's different, especially when you're watching in post. Like, after the games, you go back and go through them.
I can tell you a lot about this, because this one I was really paying attention to, and specifically because I was talking to Brolan afterwards. I knew I was talking to him. I was paying extra attention to the maps to try to figure out what was happening. They're playing FaZe. They start off on Nuke, and I can't even really describe what happens because FaZe just dominate their T side. And I don't really understand how. Like, and then of course Mouse comes back on their own T side. Like, obviously it's Mouse. Their T side is going to be shit. I wrote off the Nuke map the second the first half ended. They actually start to come back to 11-9. Like 8 straight rounds on T side, and Brolan was fucking excellent on this map. Like for parts of this map, it looked like Brolan was the only guy actually trying to win on Mouse, and then they just lose it to a Whimper. And like, I asked Brolan about it afterwards, and he was like, "They just, we got some momentum, but then they broke it." And like, Brokey was just a god in this game. And do you have a read on this? Because it felt insane in the arena. It genuinely felt insane.
The way I felt about this game, firstly, this map, is we saw Mouse, like, after losing that first half, you're right. It is kind of
over.
How do I see this Mouse side making that comeback happen? Just in terms of a mentality aspect, a counter-strike aspect. Like, they've had good maps of Nuke this year. But it's not, a general rule is that their Nuke T side isn't special or anything. Like, especially on the stages, they've had some troubles, and I'm like, okay, that map's done. But then they have a big comeback. I'm like, okay, that's different. That's cool. They go into the lead, and you're right. The way Broland says it, they broke our momentum. It's like, yeah, they didn't just break your momentum, though. They utterly shattered your mental somehow by stopping a round streak. Like, it's just... We keep saying they're not chokers. They've got the proof in the big wins, but they're also clearly still mentally frail. I'm sorry, they're so frail.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
That was an absurd like collapse. Not just at the end of the game, but more importantly into the next map, because they then go into Inferno, and I don't know what to describe it as besides a limp dick like final flail of a roster that just gave up, because everyone not named Torji might as well have only had one hand. It was that bad. It was just disgusting. Like, I felt so disappointed, especially with Torji. Like, sure, Torji underperformed on Nuke, and that's his fault. But then he realizes that he's the one guy who finds something to rally around, I guess, in terms of this is my home major. Plays a fantastic like individual T side on Nuke, on Inferno rather. But everyone else is already mentally packing their bags. Like, do I have it? Where's my charger? Like, did I bring the electric toothbrush? Where's the plug for that? Like, that's what everyone's thinking during that fucking map Inferno. It's like, how many interviews do I have to do before I can go home? Like, it's that. That's how they felt as a roster. Disappointing. Disappointing is nice. I'm gonna be honest. I probably would have yelled a lot of things if I was that coach. If I'm Tobiz, it's difficult to balance in terms of what your coach should say in that situation, because there's a part of you that's like, it's the end of the year. We had a great year. We can't be too negative.
No. But
I would be actively like, I'd struggle to not voice just how disappointing that was. Like, maybe at halftime of that game, you rip them to fucking shreds. Then after the game, you try to control it, be more about, this is the end of the year. What a year. But fuck me, that was...
Yeah.
Y'all got paid for this?
I was surprised Broland was that, I won't say unbothered, but it was like the way this game went, the fact they have Torji, they were in Hungary, etc. I was surprised we weren't seeing mouse players in tears, to be honest, the way they went out. But when I was talking to him, it was just a bit like, yeah, obviously it feels like shit, but we're still happy with the year. Brokey was insane. We couldn't really do anything about that. And it felt a little like that shit, pretty, to sum up what he said, it's like, Brokey was insane. We couldn't do anything to counter that. We're still happy with the year. Let's see what we can do next year. That was the feeling I got from that interview, which is like, it's weird to me. But I also find it super weird the veto they did. Because why would you pick Inferno into FaZe? Like, again, they are going to pick Nuke against you. 100%. I think FaZe picked Nuke in every game they played, at least in Stage 3 onwards. And you had the option of picking Overpass, which is a weak map for FaZe. It's a pretty weak map for FaZe. It's a pretty strong map for Mouse. They don't play it super often, but it's a strong map. You had the option of picking Ancient, a pretty weak map for you, but also not a particularly strong map for Ancient whatsoever, or for FaZe whatsoever. And it's also a map you were pretty comfortable playing against Spirit. Like, you've played it several times this season against Spirit. Why don't you go for that? Your regular first pick, like your usual first pick, a lot of the time your first pick is Mirage. You could have tried that. Like, you had options, but you go for Inferno, which is, granted, maybe FaZe haven't played it that much in the major so far. Maybe that was it. I don't know the numbers, but they like to play it. It's well known that it's like a strong carrying map. And like, it just feels weird. It just felt that in hindsight, that feels really weird to me. When Overpass is right there, when Ancient is an option, I feel like they should have been comfortable going for one of those two, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Overpass one is the one I would have liked, I think. Like, Ancient, I don't really see it as, Mal's being particularly good on it. Like, not in this sort of context where you're like, big game, big playoff game, what do I rely upon? What can I go to? Overpass is still a risk in quite the same way, because you haven't played it that much, You've lost it close to Furia. You've beaten a few lesser teams on it. Maybe you don't trust yourselves. You don't think your game plan is that reliable. But the read for me in that game, but also in other games, is that FaZe are not going to be playing Overpass. It's not their perma, obviously. They're just a team that doesn't want to play Train either. They're not a team who plays the specials, funnily enough. You know, those complicated tactical maps where you kind of had to be an expert on it. For some reason, not going into it. There's almost something to read into there. But Mouse, yeah, cocked up the veto. Put up a surprising fight on Nuke T side. Then wasted away. Disappeared. Basically, Harikiri right on stage.
Yes, and that's very disappointing. And I wonder if there's maybe like this with Mouse. We're obviously talking about a nerves element to all this. I think Brolin said as well. I asked like, what's the home crowd situation for Torchi and stuff? How do you feel about that? He was like, it's been nice, but in that phase game, he didn't feel like they had a home crowd support whatsoever. Like, which I was surprised by. Like, it's the only Hungarian player in the entire major playing in the quarterfinal.
Yeah, the issue with that is outside. There are certain majors where the home crowd effect is very real. Blast Paris, I was there in attendance. It's like 12,000 people total.
Right, yes.
4,000 were straight up Golden Hornets. So yes, there was a clear home bias. FaZe are the international darlings of Counter-Strike. So countries with no home nation team that's like good, there's a ton of FaZe fans. And in terms of in the event itself, there were Hungarians, but it wasn't. They weren't a dominant sector. So I guess in terms of the home crowd support, it wasn't felt. For me, it's more like it's not about the home crowd that should have helped them. It's more Torji is on his home soil. He wants to impress. I'd have thought the power of friendship would extend that desire, that need to everyone else. Apparently not. That's all I'm gonna say.
That was the other thing Brolin said when I asked that question, was that it seems like it's making Torji more nervous. Like, despite the crowd isn't chanting his name, he said that there's a little bit extra nerves for Torji, and I was like, huh. Okay. It feels like they kind of got shafted by the fact it was in Hungary rather than helped by it.
As we all know, famously, Mouse, they would have won it if it was not in Hungary.
No. But it felt like it was not. It wasn't helping them. It was to their detriment rather than their benefit more. So it sounds like that. Like, that's my interpretation of it. But like, I was expecting to have like at least once hearing Torji's name chanted in the arena. At least once.
Yeah, to be fair, I wasn't there whilst they were still in the arena. Unfortunately, I was only a semi-final, grand final.
It was all FaZe. It was all FaZe.
They're just too popular, man.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Unfortunately, but we have one more quarterfinal to talk about.
Yeah, let's finish up on the quarters because it's already
a banger.
32 minutes. Yes. So I saw some people complaining about this one, talking about how the maps Navi was so one-sided, it's boring. I'm like, did you firstly have any idea of the narrative of this game coming into it? Like, first off, like coming into this game, Fury are the #1 team in the world, the odds-on favorite to win the major. Navi have been nothing short of, I don't know. Okay, they've not been that disappointing, but I was about to get real extreme with it. They had a pretty disappointing season. You know, they made the change. They had a Spark Cologne run, and then after that, you know, things kind of still looked a bit flat. They generally just not a great season. And Mirage, they come out and they put on an absolute clinic. You know, the way that we expect Na'Vi when they're at their best. You know, the best form of Na'Vi with the Legacy and Blade plays some of the best Mirage. They're the trendsetter, the meta setters, and they have all the pieces in all the right places. You know, everyone's taking free shots and easy kills, and it's just everything's so well pieced together, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, firstly, a great first map in terms of this is a series. Like, we have the Na'Vi we needed to give Fury a challenge, because that's a big if, right? If we don't get that version of Na'Vi, we expect a 2-0 boring sweep. So at that point, we should be excited. Then we get the Inferno just craze. Like that was a crazy map. I'm not saying it was particularly like well put together map by either team. Because it's, you know, 2 9-3 CT halves and some, it's not the best T-side play, let's put it that way. But it does give us drama, tension, big crowd explosions. Yes. It's a fun map of Counter-Strike, especially if you're in the arena. And yeah, you could have asked for more out of Train. Like, Train's the big question mark when we go into it, in terms of who to actually favor. Because we saw Na'Vi a great prep on map 1. We saw Na'Vi, you know, played pretty decently into what Furia had to offer on Inferno. At least defensively, they were pretty good. So how prepped are they for this map? Do they expect this map in the veto? I think you kind of should, but how well drilled are they? What can they give us? And what they gave us was a pretty damn good T-side with, most importantly, what a Makaze. Like an absolutely, like a demonic, unleashed Makaze who just wrecked house left, right, and center. 11-7 on the T-side, then CT side 9-1, just pummeled them in the final sort of 4 rounds. But they did on Train what they did on Mirage. They just perfectly pieced together everything. And as much as it's a one-sided game, boring game for the level of Counter-Strike they played. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like those 2 maps. As much as they are one-sided, I'm not a true neutral who wants any old, stupid, crazy, chaotic bullshit. I can appreciate it when I'm 17 beers deep in the stadium and yelling about stuff. Yeah, sure, I love it when there's dumb 1v3s and 2vx's. But when a team just puts together round after round of well-orchestrated, well-executed CS, just give them the applause. Just give them the love.
Yeah.
That was great. And we saw, obviously, afterwards that Na'Vi needed that kind of prep time to beat a good team. But at least we got to see it once.
Yeah, and this is, once again, a big crowd favorite. Na'Vi were. A lot of Furia fans as well. I was very impressed by Furia. They had a whole section. The entire section 319 was just Brazilian fans jumping up and down, banging on drums. And they were doing that while they were 3-9 down on the second map. In the halftime break, I went up there and recorded them. That's up on Fragbites, socials everywhere. Like, they're doing that while they're down, and they're like, yeah, we're still gonna win. Boom, ba-dum, bum, boom, ba-dum. And it's like, wow, okay, you have this energy even while you're about to be eliminated 2-0. That's wild. But I was asking people before Train, in between the maps, everybody asked who's gonna win Train. It's gonna be Furia. And I was like, I don't know. Train is a little bit of a specialist map for Na'Vi, I feel like. I feel like it's a... Train is still new enough where there are some teams who just... Oh. Am I muted or what?
No, I would have told you. I'm not stupid.
Okay, yeah, good, because Shile just said mute, question mark. Weird. Anyway. But like, I asked a lot of people, who do you think wins? And I feel like Train is still new enough where there's some teams who just don't really play it that much, who haven't played it that much. There are some teams who are still pretty weak on it, and there's some teams who were on it quite early, and I feel like Na'Vi are one of those teams. And I was sort of like, I don't know. I feel like this could be a good one. Depends on who starts CT side. In the end, it didn't even matter who started the CT side, because Na'Vi won 10-2 on their T side. It was an amazing map, and we got... I'm really... Sorry. With this series, like, you look at the scoreline, I could have seen this map being like a boring... A boring affair of, like, run-of-the-mill rounds going the way they should. We got a lot of excitement about that, because we had Fallen's 1-3, which is, to be fair, like, it's not... He gets the job done, but it's a layup.
The Inferno 1-3, right? It's Inferno, yeah. Okay. This was the thing. Yeah. I missed Inferno live, but I saw the socials explode about a Fallen 1v3, and I was like, oh god, Unk has clearly done some crazy shit and hit clutch to 1v3. I finally watched the clip. I'm like, does he have another 1v3 that I missed?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by, like, when you're in the stadium as a neutral and you're like, just brain off, show me shooty bang bang, ha ha ha, like, insane clutch. Like, this should not have happened. Insane clutch. I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to scream. Watching it at home, you know, kind of cold and distant and a slightly bit more analytically, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Na'Vi, what are you doing? Yeah. That's just a pure and proper cock-up. There's nothing else to it.
Yeah, so that's true. It's still very hype. The split-second diffuse as well. Amazing. I think before that as well, we had Immis near 1-5, like the final guy. That was also an insane round and in the arena, and that is genuinely impressive as well from him, the fact that he almost makes it happen. But yeah, it's... So for that, I'm very happy, because we actually got it. And we got a lot of stuff outside of that as well. We got really good highlights. Just the fact that Wonderful starts the entire series with a 4K on P250 on the Mirage pistol.
Yeah, P250 highlights are always so satisfying.
Yeah, and that one was also like, we start the series with the underdog having a round which felt like, whoa. From that round onwards, I was like, now I believe they might do this upset. They might
Yeah,
do
there's
this
some.
upset.
That's when
Yeah,
it doesn't entirely do it. You know, obviously once you're getting to halftime and they're up and they've been piecing them together, yeah, you're really starting to get excited. But after the pistol, you're like, oh, that's the right thing I need to see. You know, I'm starting to get, just gonna perk up a little bit because this Navi is so far come into play. So yeah, I'm on the same page to you where I'm like, this series got kind of bashed a bit because of the way Navi's maps were won. Like they were so one-sided.
Yeah,
I loved it. It was such a. If I want a team to upset, this is how I want them to do it. Off their T sides with like control and everything's very deliberate. And the word I was looking for earlier is academic. Bloody hell. Anyway.
Yes.
So yeah, those are the quarterfinals. My favorite. I think my favorite was Navi Furia. Don't know about you. I really liked that game. Everything else, it felt too blunderful. You know, it's wonderful v blunderful. I'm obviously, you know which one I'm going to pick.
Yeah,
that was just
out of the quarterfinals, it was the most enjoyable one.
Yeah, but let's talk about the semis. Yeah, we're going to take our sweet ass time breaking this entire bracket down. Holy crap!
Yes.
So Spirit Vitality, Navi FaZe. Spirit Vitality was the first one, right? Yeah. And I really, really enjoyed that game. Like the Mirage, especially. The Dust 2, it's Dust 2. And that Dust 2 felt really Dust 2-y. Now, I'm going to explain what I mean by that. There were a lot of 1 minute plus, nothing's fucking happening rounds on that game. That had thrilling, close endings, like especially on Vitality's T side, the final executes that were late. Like, they were pretty cool. It's like, oh, they got it through, and oh, they traded him out, and oh, they got the bomb down, and they've got time. Pretty dope. But there were so many. Just, what's happening? Oh, it's still, if they're still just sitting around looking at short, waiting for someone else to push them. Okay, great. It's still a bad map. I still hate Dust 2. But it was, it was a pretty good Mirage. And then the Dust 2 T side, you know, had moments from Vitality. But yeah, I don't know what your takeaway was from those two maps. That was my broad overview. Mirage was a bit of a banger. Like,
Mirage was a banger. My broad takeaway from the series is that Spirit should have won both maps. But I do agree.
I don't understand the logic of that though, on Dust 2 especially.
Well,
how do you mean they should have?
I expect Spirit's Dust 2 to be stronger, especially when it's their own pick. And especially with how well they fought on Mirage, which was Vitality's pick. But Mirage, at this point, they had so many map points where I feel like it's undeniable. They had 12-6, and they lost 6 straight T-side rounds. One of them to time, because yes, this was a theme across this entire series. Chopper was calling rounds where at the 12-second mark, they pick a site to go to. Of course. Like, they did that so many of these rounds where, you know, it ended up being very late rounds, and so two of them on that Mirage T side, they lost because of it. Probably several more, but just outright 2 of them were lost to time, which is just why. But all right. Then in overtime, they go up 15-13. They have another 2 map points. They are unable to secure it. It's 17-17 at one point. I just feel so many chances to close that first map. That should have been a Spirit win. When you're up 12-6, yes, you should have won the map. You should have won the map. In my opinion, that is just a pure fact. So
yeah, it's just
ahead of the game. No, ahead of the game, I didn't feel like Spirit were gonna win. Just to be clear, but there were significant periods of this series where Spirit should have won. But yeah, maybe Dust 2. Yeah, I never had that moment where like, yeah, Spirit definitely should have won this map. That's true. Maybe they're different in that sense. It's their own map pick though. Like if they had won Mirage, I think they win those two because they were just that frustrated after losing Mirage in the fashion they did.
Yeah, the Mirage thing. Yeah, I see what you mean in terms of the non-map points they have. It's just I don't see it in the same way in terms of Spirit should have won. I see it in a case of Spirit got there. They got to 12. And Vitality then activated. It seemed like an extra gear. Like in terms of how they ran that CT side to close and get to OT, it's just like the setups were well structured and well put together and well thought out. And they had little ideas and they tried different things and they really varied it all up. And it was just really well done. And I couldn't focus on the Spirit of choking aspect because Vitality just played great CS. So I'm just not on the same sort of page with that sort of stuff. I'm very happy with how Vitality ended up playing the Mirage, even if it did take them going down 12-6 to turn the dial up. You know, that knob to 11.
Yes. Yes.
But it was so fun to watch once they did, and obviously, Merryman denying that bomb plant. Such a huge moment. Yeah, very hype semi-final. Honestly, at that point, the Mirage was so hyped. One of the most hyped maps of the entire sort of the playoffs, at least when I was in the stadium. Because, yeah, we had some great moments in the grand final, the other semi-final. But that Mirage was, a dogfight. It was great.
Yeah. And in that sense, you're right. Vitality definitely played better. I'm not looking at this and I feel like Vitality played bad in that sense that they should lose. It's more so that Spirit had so many chances to close it out. For some of these rounds, they looked really dominant. And I also do think that, like, pause the game at 12-6 and just flip that next round. They win 12-7 or 13-6. Let's say that on Mirage. 100% they win those two. Because the way Donk was frustrated, upset with his team after Mirage, the way I imagine the entire team was upset. And the way I think Mirage affected them a lot, like the way they lost Mirage, I think affected them a lot to the point where, with how close the first half is, I think that's 100% affected by how the first map went. And Spirit are usually pretty good at releasing vlogs from their events. I'm not sure we've had a semi-final vlog.
There's usually a good delay whilst they edit, you know.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing that because I do want to see what's the behind the scenes talk from Halley, what's the talk from Chopper and Donk and Shiro. In that sense, at 12-6, Spirit were winning this, were major finalists in my mind. That's the thing. At 12-6, Spirit were already major finalists at that point.
That's wild because, look, I know Dust 2's Spirit's pick, but Vitality can play every map.
Very good at Dust 2 as well, yeah, but like
very good at Dust 2. So yeah, there's no reason to write it off at that point.
It's just how it felt to me, to be honest. But
let's get your take on this.
To win. I would have preferred that.
What was your take on because it's been a controversial thing, the Donk reaction? What was your take on how he, responded to losing that game?
A lot of people call it a crash out, which I think is an overreaction.
I think by definition it kind of has to be, but yeah, that's fine.
I think
sometimes crash outs are valid,
I just mean crash out would be if he threw the mouse across the stage. I think it's pretty clear. He's very upset. I think there was tension within the team in that sense, and this was something Hawke said. At some point, somebody said that like can't remember who said the original thing, but it was basically like you had that message, the team comms message show up at some point during Mirage when they were losing, like starting to lose more and more rounds. And Shiro said something, I really like this game, this is fun. And immediately after Donk said, I really don't like this, can we please get this shit together and close the map? Like, can we get our shit together? And somebody said that it's cool to see the difference in how Shiro is mature. Or no, rather, I can't remember who it was, but they were basically saying one of them is the mature approach, one of them is the immature approach to closing map. And Hawke said, well, actually, both are valid. Both of them are just different ways of like diffusing a situation and trying to get your shit together. What I'm trying to say is, my take on that is, yes, it is. But you get a big conflict if you try to do both at once. Like, when you have one guy who's trying to say, guys, fucking get serious, and the other guy's trying to say, just relax, we're doing fine, let's just keep our heads cool. When you have those two happening at the same time, that's a conflict, that's going to be rough. And neither is going to help at that point. So I think my take on it is I think Donk was frustrated with the way his teammates not necessarily were playing, but were acting, and the way their players were approaching the tough situation they were in. So
My problem with
yeah,
this, just exactly what
yeah,
you've just discussed there, the comms message and all that.
yeah,
I've got the reaction of the AWPer and the Star Rifler who's like 12 years old.
yeah,
I need to know what the fuck is Chopper's take on this? Like, what is
yeah,
Chopper's behavior, attitude? Like, what is if he's just sat there silently and hopelessly, just
yeah.
waiting for everyone else to talk? Well, why not? Why is he not chiming in? Why is he not controlling the situation? Why does he not have more influence, more say? And is his approach? We need to, like, if he did talk and we didn't know about it, like, which side does he fall on? Like, who's being the contrarian, essentially, in that sense?
Yeah, and that's we don't know about that because if my theory is correct, then there's basically like two sides of the if inside the Spirit teams, where one of them is frustrated, upset, let's get our shit together. The other one is relax, let's have fun, let's play the game, let's keep our heads cool and play the game we usually play, and that's how we're gonna close it out. I would my gut feeling is Chopper would have sided with Shiro, which probably further frustrated Donk in this sense, and further frustrated. I don't know if his teammates were equally upset. My gut feeling is that Halley would be more on the. It's not necessarily like what Shiro was, which it was like, haha, guys, it's really funny we're losing in this way, like sarcastic. It's more so. It's more so like, keep your heads cool. Let's calm down. Take a breather. We are better. We just have to win this. That's and I get more of that vibe from Chopper and Halley rather than being upset and being like, guys, what the fuck. So, and again, I think both approaches are valid. You just but the entire team needs to be on the same page. You can't tell Donk, who is incredibly upset about how the team is playing, that they're losing this map, which he really feels they're supposed to win. Then it won't work to just say calm down, and we're gonna win this. It just needs to be the same. That was my take on that.
Basically, we don't really have the full picture. It's just what's been half painted to us is a mix of confusing and potentially, I think, poorly led sort of vibes. Like, I'm not sure what the vibe is. Clearly, there's no set culture and like uniform idea of how we should be reacting to this. And the fact that all I've been given to work off in terms of how they're approaching this as a team, and especially as a leadership duo, and Halley and Chopper, is that the rest of the team yelling at each other or having opinions, strong opinions, inflammatory opinions, probably in some way.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows, right? Everyone does this. When, let's say, there's someone on the team fucking something up, and someone else on the team is like, fuck me, can we stop doing this?
Yeah.
Everyone knows. Everyone knows. You're not talking to us. And it's the sort of thing where it's like, it's all these little things, all these details where it's like, I need the full picture, but also I don't like what I have. I just don't like what I have. To where I do think the most valid take to take from it might just be, Donk's still a bit of a kid and still has the same sort of issues that, hey, like we knew Simple had, where his interpersonal skills just not good enough.
Yeah.
It's clearly been good enough. His talent-wise, he's been good enough for it to not matter, which is why you sign players like Simple and Donk. But it's still a noticeable little thing where I'm like, I don't like the way everything sounded in that.
Yeah. And Nico was the same thing, and it is the same thing to a degree, because this is something I forgot to mention in the quarterfinal. There were times when they didn't show it on the broadcast, but you could see it on those big player cams on the stage monitor, where as Falcons were starting to lose rounds and were starting to losing in spirit, Nico was just screaming at his teammates. And he was just... And I can imagine that's a reaction that, let's say, Kyksan maybe doesn't respond positively to. I can imagine... In that game, a lot of ire was directed towards Tesses. Another thing that you could see on those player cams is Tesses wasn't getting fist bumped, which is just why. Again, I don't think Tesses, while underperforming, is going to respond positively to being yelled at and not feeling like he's a part of the team. I don't think that's going to make him play better. And that's like some players still have this. Donk still has this. It's easy to forget that Donk is just still.
He's 18.
He is a kid.
He's a boy.
Yes.
Like, as much as he is now legally a
him,
man, he's still too young. You know.
Yeah, and as much as we were early on in his career, everybody was talking about he feels no pressure. He's very mature. He plays like way beyond his years. This is still true, but it's not like he's perfect, and this is easy to forget. So I expect, you know, if a similar situation arises in a year or two, the way his career is developing, I expect it to look differently. I expect it to work differently. That's when Donkey's going to be an even more dangerous player. But for now, that's still going to happen. And yeah, but I do think it is mostly the clash. It is the clash in the team where it looked like they have different approaches. Where I think Donk is not only upset with how they played the map, I think he's upset with the fact that how they, from his perspective, probably didn't try to pull themselves together and try to actually win the map. I think he's upset with that. Fact is, obviously they're competitors in just the same way as he. They want to win that semifinal just as much, but they have an approach that they think works differently. When I say they, I mean at least one of his teammates, Shiro. So, and vibes based, Halley and Chopper. If Spirit were a more media friendly team, we might have found this out in the post game interviews. But yeah, I'll get to that.
Yeah. So let's just wrap this up.
Yeah.
So I withhold too much scathing judgment on Chopper and Halley until I know more. But for me, they are the real crux of the issue in terms of man management and all that other stuff. Because that's where it comes down to. He's a great player, but if within the team there's constant fractions and rifts because people tilt in different ways, talk to each other in the wrong way, and you as the leadership don't intervene because we don't know what the fuck they were doing or saying, you're just going to have more problems than you're going to have solutions. So let's talk about FaZe Na'Vi, because we can't waste this much time talking about interpersonal drama when we have a whole other semi. 3 maps that, well, I mean, by your logic, we shouldn't have seen map 3. Na'Vi should have won. They were up on map 2, therefore they should have won. But
how much were they up by?
They were only up 8-4 at halftime, you know.
No, that's not what I mean.
They were only winning.
They never had map point. That's like
they never had map point. But whatever. Ancient is where we start, and it was Makaze just playing the same way he did on Train, basically, just demonic. It was actually really fun as a Makaze fan, Makaze supporter, propagandist. Yeah, that was a pretty crazy nuke. Ancient, sorry. And so that was a demolition job. 13-5. Na'Vi showing some real range in terms of what they're willing to pick and play. But Nuke, on Nuke we started seeing, unfortunately, if the game plan's not quite right, it's always been the comment, if they're not getting the free kills, if they're not set up in exactly the right way, is there someone who can step up, seize the game, just find a way? Can we take a broken half and fix it with mid rounds? Can we do the silly bullshit that you kind of need to do when things go out the window in the high pressure match? Can you have the JL Deagle clutch on Ancient? They didn't quite have it, because after a pretty good CT side, their T side just floundered. They got shut down over and over again by Frozen. Carrigan had a massive overperformance, which also helped, but still a big nuke comeback that FaZe allowed to happen. And then on Inferno, well, it looked like a FaZe map pick, just with Na'Vi starting on the T side. So, your takeaway from this game, like, let's put it this way, who's the focus of our attention in terms of which players / coach or whatever do you think win / lose this game? Like, where are you in terms of the deciders as far as individuals?
Well, the most simple answer is that it's Twists, as the series is sort of weighing on the end of that Inferno map. FaZe are up 8-11, but their economy is kind of in a shit situation. It's looking like this is going to be 11-11. That's when Twists has that Deagle round, which as I talked to Navi's manager Bondi, who you and I know a bit,
Yeah.
as I talked to him after the game, I just said like it's if Twist doesn't get that Deagle round, I think you guys win Inferno, and he said yeah, because we had the economy in a good spot. Everything was like a lot of parts of the game was in their favor, and that round is in that sense, and Twists in that sense, a game winner. But like it is also the fact that you have Nuke, which is such an important map for FaZe, and they start off on the back foot on their T side. Their T side has been really strong. Their Nuke T side all major has been very strong. It's been surprising me.
It has put together a lot of rounds,
Yeah.
X's and O's, and breaking it down wise. When I watch it, it's not that good. They had a great. They hit They had one great round that I remember from the playoffs
Yeah.
on Nuke. But it was in the grand final, I think, with the Twist main flank. You know, that's always been like, it's one of the best details that they throw in, and the way they use it is always very, very fun. But generally, their T sides it's just like, here's some bullshit.
Yeah, and that's true, but it has given results. Like results-wise, scoreline-wise, their T sides all major have been the best they've been all year for FaZe, basically on Nuke. So when, of course, with that in mind, when Navi go 8-4 up, even 8-2 up at one point on their own, like on FaZe's T side, I'm kind of like, this is going to be tricky for FaZe to win. But they step up on the CT side, they make the comeback happen, and the player who does it like most significantly there, and in that sense is one of the game winners, is Frozen, because he steps up so big on that CT side. His CT rating on Nuke is 2.34, and he's on the same scoreline as Kerrigan with 13-4 in KD. But the round swing is just, and the ADR is just so much better, because Kerrigan's on a 148, Frozen is on a 234. The impact from him in that map was gigantic. So Frozen and Twists sort of do feel like the game-winning players they are supposed to be in this game and in this major, and that's pretty exciting. Like Frozen ends the series quite low, but they are out 2-0 if Frozen doesn't go that huge on Nuke, I think.
Yeah, we talked all year, basically, all season, about how FaZe Clan can still be relevant and still win games, and still, despite the fact that they've got all these problems and the roster turmoil and Brokey being, the worst player on the scene, basically, relative to gun value, they still have a chance. They have a rifle duo that can go toe-to-toe with pretty much any team, let alone just 1v1 with a guy, with any team.
Yeah.
And, we saw that impact from Frozen on Nuke. Twist was just good on Nuke and Inferno, but especially Inferno, as you said. They needed those individuals, and they needed some bullshit. That Deagle 1v3, it's kind of bullshit. In the same way, it's the FaZe magic. Obviously, it doesn't work in their favor in the grand final, but to that point, yes, what we'd discussed, what we'd hoped for, what we'd expected in terms of FaZe win conditions activated. And it's those two just dynamos. Like, that's what they are. Like, they're just, they're not necessarily specifically one thing. It's not like I'm like, oh, Twist's a star entry, Frozen's a star closer. It's like, yes, but also they're just out here doing whatever it takes. Like, you need a play in some way out of this team. Twist is going to hard entry into main.
Yeah.
Frozen's going to take this fight, and it's just going to break a round open. They have two game changers in that sense, who just across the board win you rounds. So we saw a real, like, sort of manifestation of that, because despite Wonderful still having a good Nuke, it's actually like Makaze's worst map in the playoffs. He never finds much impact, like moments or spots to carry or crack it open. Ima and Bit especially, like, nothing special in this series. And so when you have that kind of diff in terms of star impact, if your calling's not going to be perfect like it was on Ancient, like it was the day before against Furia, on both those maps of Train and Mirage, where you don't have that great anti, you don't have that great formula to pick them apart. The stars really matter. And Twist and Frozen did what they did all year. Oh, goodbye, red light. Did what they did all year, and just made the FaZe magic happen.
Yeah, there was some bullshit. That is, you know, Twists and Frozen's, honestly mainly Twists, in the way that I see him and the way I've seen him this year and on Viz so far. There might be no other player in the world who has a better capability for bullshit, for pulling rounds out of his ass. I'm dead serious when I say that. I genuinely think he might be able to pull more bullshit out of his ass than Zaibu Donk. Because there are just rounds that are lost. They are lost. And it's not even like, you know, oh, like a 1-on-3. Sometimes it's just you're down 2-on-4. And this guy finds a multi-kill through 2 unfavorable fights that he just wins with first bullet headshots. And he can do it so regularly, and he can do it so often, where he might be in this regard. If this was a measurable statistic, which it isn't, if it was, I might put him above Zai Wundong, to be honest, in that sense. And that's because Jesus Christ. And that's his biggest strength. That's how he is able to get those deagle rounds. That's how he's able to get, you know, swing rounds in an insane fashion. And that's why he is one of FaZe's best weapons. Frozen has it to a degree as well, but Frozen is more just an output guy. He's going to have a lot of output. He's going to be able to find a lot of output in a more traditional sense.
You maybe don't remember everything Frozen does in a map, but at the end of it, he has 85 ADR, you know, and a bunch of kills.
Yeah,
you know, there's moments as well where he does do it, but Twists is, you're kind of right in that sense, where it's always a highlight. It's pretty much always a highlight.
Yeah,
a Twist multi-kill feels like it's going to be a highlight every time.
Yes, and it is he's on a swivel so much. Like I saw somebody, there was one of the highlights. It was a Jacob round, I think, on the pistol on Nuke in the final, where I think when they saw the replay, Launders was like, "Ooh, he's pivoting back and forth. This is a Twist round." Yes, and I was like, yes, exactly. It is a Twist round because nobody else is going to get those 180-degree flicks and get the first bullet headshot and then do it again and get another one. There's nobody else who's going to be able to do it reliably except for Twists in the entire fucking world. That's why he is the best. That's why it's like a immeasurable thing, which is just a magic that Twist has.
It is a little bit measurable. Here's how. If you go into the HLTV stats and you look at multi-kills, just whilst Twist has been on FaZe, he's got 196 double kills, 131 are fast. Like, where within 5 seconds, like quick bang, bang. Well, within 5 seconds, so there could be a bit more space, but he is really electric like that, and the ratio kind of speaks for itself. It also manifests when you actually watch the game, because you just see him. The classic example is always like just entering into position like as the second man, or like he's the second point of attack, and it's just convert. And he did it against NIP a bunch on that Nuke game they won. Yeah, I just checked it. He actually did it a lot more against NIP in the Inferno they won. It just, if I'm just looking at this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fast multi-kills. 2 kills, 2 Ks minimum, against that NIP side. Like it's filthy. It flips rounds. It wins games. Yeah, huge semi-final. That brings us to that grand final though. Vitality, FaZe. My prediction going into it: FaZe are gonna get swept. 3-0. No two ways about it. Vitality have looked too good, and honestly, FaZe, whilst they have won the games, haven't done it in a way that's convinced me they've magically figured out Counter-Strike to the same level. I had this 3-0. It ended 3-1. What your prediction was also? Was it a 3-1?
3-1, FaZe win Nuke. When Mikey asked me he just asked me what should I bet for, and I said 3-1 for Vitality. And I texted my friend the night before, and he was like, I hope it's not a blowout. And I said, it's probably not going to be a blowout. I think FaZe are going to win Nuke. But then, it still felt like a blowout though. That's the crazy part, right? Because like Jesus, Dust 2 utterly annihilated, Overpass embarrassed. Yeah, like the maps Vitality picked were true blowouts, and the Inferno, whilst it was closer, they still were clearly the better team. You know, 8-4-5-5 is just you're the better team. Nothing special about it. But the way they won Dust 2, and then the way they utterly wrecked them on Overpass, predictably.
wrecked them on overpass. Yeah, devastating loss. It still felt really bad for FaZe. Yeah, it just felt like they were way overmatched. And look, shout out Mezzy.
Yeah.
Because I'm putting this out there. I put it out in a tweet earlier, yesterday. Support Rifle Goat.
Probably, yeah.
He's in the conversation now. I don't think he was prior to this grand final. I definitely think he has to be. And I know there's not that long a list of guys who you'd consider all-time greats who are supports, like as support all-time great as well, specifically.
Yeah.
But that list has to include Mezzy. And if he's not towards the top, you'll have to build me a quite convincing case for anyone else to not be, for him to not be on top. Like, it's Zip, and then it's who?
Yep. So, Mezzy was huge on specifically Dust to an Inferno. I think something which speaks to how Vitality played this game is that both Mezzy and Rops had their best rated maps ever in that grand final.
Yeah.
Ever. Their entire career. Sort by rating. The 289 from Rops on Overpass is his best rating, and the 2.0 from Mezzy is, you know, as a player playing support roles, maybe not entirely unexpected, but it is his best map in his entire career by rating.
It is surprising considering he used to absolutely farm on endpoint and stuff like that, you know, so.
Now that I say that, apparently it's not true. Who lied to me? Somebody said it was the best map ever.
It might be his best map on Vitality. Or big events. Or something else, but...
It might be big events.
I'd assume there's something crazy from like a time on endpoint or something, or Gamer Legion.
Yeah. It's his best big event map ever. His next closest is the against Liquid last year. He has a 196. He has a couple that are better overall. For Rops, it is his best map overall, is the Overpass. But the Inferno out of Mezzy is his best big event map.
Yeah, he even has a bigger 3.0 map. Like.
Yeah, he does. So
it's not even that.
No, but it is his best big event map, because that bigger one is against Bet Boom. But yeah, that sort of encapsulates in a way how Vitality were playing in this final. About Nuke, I was very surprised that they lost Nuke in the grand final, even bigger of a loss than they had earlier in the major. Like it's 1 round margin.
Yeah.
But you've already played FaZe, you've already lost to them just a week prior. You lost to them 7-13. Of course, FaZe picked Nuke. They were always going to pick Nuke as the first map in this best of 5. And you lose 6-13, and some of the rounds look really stupid.
So looks stupid.
How does that happen?
It happens like this.
Yeah.
Vitality come in with a game plan. It's... I think it's primarily predicated on the idea that they are going to try and use some sort of... They want to retake a lot of outer control, mid to late. They want to try and be a bit proactive. And what really happens is that FaZe don't play as much of a, like, slow, defaulty sort of T-side. They have more pops and more execs than you'd probably expect, and they run more effectively and more clinically than you'd expect, and they just kind of get caught out. You know, there's one great round where, you know, we see it, like Apex, despite having struggled in their outer control battles, is still pushing it, still trying it. Like, that's clearly their game plan, was to constantly keep pressure and info outside, to not let the sort of maneuvering style of FaZe where they're like kind of like, oh, okay, we got this, should we try? And it was not to allow them that space, and they lost the fights, and then eventually, you know, would lose rounds. But it did look silly, and I understand why some of the reactions were quite visceral to that Nuke game. But I think it's a minor cock up, just on some part of it on a strategical basis, the other part of it FaZe massively overperforming in terms of hitting all their shots, like Karrigan's 18 and 12, and I remember watching it thinking, who the Unk got it? Like, what? Like, he was hitting crazy shots, like, all over the place. There was a part of it that was just bullshitty, in the same way that a lot of other FaZe Nuke games have been. So, yes, it was a shock to me. I thought they'd sweep even with a Nuke in the opening. But it is a combination of them getting the prep a bit wrong, and FaZe getting the prep a bit right, and the overperformance. So it makes sense.
Yeah. It does make sense. But yeah, it is. It all comes down to the Inferno map, which could have gone both ways, I think.
Yes, Inferno on paper could go both ways, right? When we're talking about the series overall, you're
yes, if it was
pick for phase, pick for Vitality quite clearly. Pick for phase, ooh, that could be a thing. Pick for Vitality, obviously Vitalities, and then we'd go into a Mirage where the power of bullshit compels you. It's going to be a banger. Like, so they had to basically win their picks, and Inferno, Vitality's the better Inferno team. They have been the better Inferno team all year. Yeah, but we all knew.
But it's close
having
enough
watched the
for
nuke,
an upset to happen. Yeah,
having watched the nuke and knowing who we're talking about, maybe. And instead, Mezzi said, "Fuck no, give me my fucking major title."
Yeah. So in that sense, if it was ever going to happen, it would have to happen on Inferno. I thought ahead of the map, I felt like, okay, these teams FaZe are strong enough where on paper it could happen. It's close enough for an upset. Of course, it didn't happen. Yeah. So yeah, it's one hell of a final. I'm not upset about it feeling like a blowout in the end because I did just check. Despite the game starting at 6 and despite it being a little bit of a blowout, I texted you when I got the Apex interview at 11:19, and then I texted you at like 10 minutes past midnight. We just left the arena. So it's if it had been overtime or like a five mapper with a couple of overtime strewn in, we would have left the arena at 2-3 a.m., which would have been a
crazy
disaster.
Like, screw that. It was far too late to start a best of 5.
Disaster.
That's one of the big complaints I have on Major. It's just some of the scheduling. I get like you sometimes want to optimize for time zones. I always get annoyed when people in the stadium have to do some stupid shit. I don't think that's it.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. And I don't get did any of the I don't think we had an issue with this because the later games in the playoffs were mostly the ones that were close, and the early games were usually quite one-sided. But I'm thinking about like Spirit Vitality was still pretty close. It was with the overtime and everything. Did FaZe Navi still start at 8 or no? It got pushed back to 9. They put them very close. Like the quarterfinals and semifinals were at 5 and 8. And I think they needed a 45-minute break for both of them. So I was a little bit like this. It feels like you should have taken a bit more space because you're basically saying if it's not a 2-0, we have to delay, which is a bit of a shame. They were lucky enough. Only the Vitality Mongols game got delayed by 10 minutes, and the semifinal Navi FaZe was delayed by an hour. That was the only delays we had. But it is also. You open the doors to the arena at 2:30. You could have, like, without speaking on behalf of the organization, because obviously I don't know what sort of stuff they had to do during the day. I feel like you could have opened the door at least at 1 and had the game start an hour earlier. I feel like that would have been possible. So, like, if they started at 6 and... if they started at 4 and 7, if the grand final started at 5, even just that would have been a lot better. And I'll get onto another reason why that was bad in the small side as well. But yeah, it's just as a tangent on that. I still enjoyed the final as much as a 5-map banger would have been amazing as well. I would have fallen asleep probably.
Yeah, if it went that late, I mean, dude. I don't know about this arena, but
how are people going to get home?
One of the reasons as well people don't have events finishing that or starting that late when they do them in other places is because most arenas have curfews. Because you're telling me on a Sunday night you need to get 20,000 people across your city. Like it's just a weird logistical problem, and yeah, I just wasn't very happy with that. But anyway, back on the topic of the grand final. Yes. In the end, Vitality win 3-1, pretty convincing. I guess some people it fell flat because we were really hoping for a Furia game, but I'm still happy with the way the entire bracket plays out, just in terms of
me too.
some of the matchups and who actually ends up winning. I'm happy it's a Vitality win. Like, we're back on. The era's back on. And that's the final topic I want to just talk about. When we talk about Vitality and this sort of run, Quack, you obviously don't think it's an era. Like, you think that stops when they've lost like a couple of events and it's kind of like done. I've seen it already. I didn't have to make the case first. Everyone's already talking about how the era didn't end. Like, this year is their era. You obviously hate that. Because as we've talked about with your definitions of eras, no one has one. So let's put it this way. Vitality have had a fantastic year. Obviously, Team of the Year. No one's gonna be surprised when at the HLTV Awards they win Team of the Year. What does it actually mean, though, the major win? Like, how does it play into you for like the historical significance? Like, do they get any form of credit? What does it mean in that sense for you? If it's not era worthy, it's not era continuing.
Is Astralis' Star Ladder major win in Berlin, is that part of their era?
I actually, when I think about Astralis' era, I do consider it going on that till then. Like, in terms of, if I had to talk about this section of history,
I think you have changed that answer, because we have talked about this a number of times over the years.
That's the one that's after the Liquid run.
I distinctly remember.
It's the one after the Liquid run.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Never mind. Yes. I'm piecing it back together. Hang on. No, I don't.
Yep.
It's because it's like 6 months after their last sort of major. It's many event wins away from anything. Like, they hadn't won anything for like a long time. Like, it was a bit of an awkward one.
Yeah, didn't make a lot of finals even either. Yeah.
Yeah, probably not.
It's the same thing for me here. It is the same thing. We've had a big Furia run, which was notable. We've had Furia clearly be the #1 team at one point.
2 events, yeah.
And in between there, we had a bit, but significant. And they go into the major. They are not even favorites to win the major. The Vitality we saw in Budapest did not exist a couple of weeks ago. It was, the team was still good, but Vitality were playing poorly. Like, relative to where they were earlier in the year, relative to what we saw in Budapest, Vitality were playing worse. Vitality were looking messier. They had problems. When even they are saying that they have some problems they need to fix to get back to their level, it's not a Vitality era. It's gone. It's ended. This is nice. But in the same way, Astralis
is way smaller. Like, if we want to make the Liquid, Liquid, obviously they're the Liquid are the Fury of this conversation. If we want to make that comparison, it's a far less significant gap. It's a far less significant fall off. It's still, they play, of the events they don't win, let's say from Austin onwards, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in a row they don't win. They make a grand final. They win Pro League.
Yeah.
They play 2 events, make a grand final, win the major. They miss out on top 4 0 times. Because even though, for some reason, HLTV doesn't assign a 3rd, 4th to the 3rd, 4th, it's a World Cup, it's a 3rd, 4th.
Yep.
It's quite tough to call it a fall off. Like, in terms of quality, like size of fall off, it's a dip. But they win a title, they make 2 grand finals, then they win the major again. And the major being, of course, the significant event that it is. I understand entirely why people are going to look at this and be like, they still kind of want to call it the era, and they still feel like it is the Vitality era. Because Furia's dominant run is, there's a nothing event that other teams don't attend, then there's 2 events, and that's cool, but it's not 6 straight events in the way Liquids was. It's not a Grand Slam,
Oh, and
in terms of historical narrative change and the movement of these pieces in the historical context, it's tiny, relatively.
Right, and to be clear, I don't think Liquid specifically ended Astralis' era. I don't think that's true. I just think Astralis, talking only about Astralis, they just fell off too hard to the point where they weren't making grand finals. They were making top 4s here and there, but they weren't making grand finals. They weren't winning grand finals. And it's not even just Liquid. Like, we had event wins out of ENCE. We had event wins out of Vitality. Yeah, Astralis didn't show up for all of them. Vitality didn't show up for all of the events that have happened during the fall season, which Furia have won. G2 won one of them as well. Like, we've had Mouse and Falcons be up here. We've had Spirit be up here. Spirit won a Cologne. Like, just to read out this chat message from MGO. 100% an era, even though they lost a few. They've been dominant. They fell off, but rised up again and smashing everyone. That's true. The fact that they fell off is part of that sentence. That's the end of the era. That is the end of the era. They rose up again. This could be the start of a new era. In that case, in my opinion, look, but you force. Hang on, if you force me to call the spring season an era, then I could, and then this Budapest major win could potentially be the start of a second Vitality era. I'm not decided. I am undecided. I've previously, like after the spring season, I was saying that I'm not sure the spring season is an era. I won't give a verdict on that. I'll probably say it is a Vitality era, but it's also very brief. It's the shortest out of all the eras. If
all
the
two
season
that exist, yes. Jesus. Okay, let's put it this way. The reason why I think this is a very legitimate continuation, and why I think that case can definitely be made. When does the Roman Empire fall?
Well, there's two. It splits into. Okay, well, yeah, I can see what you mean.
No. Just tell me when it falls.
I'm not that well versed in Roman history. I just know they split, and sometime in the 1400s, the
you don't need to give me an exact date. The point of the entire point of this, does it at various points in history does it not shrink, then grow again? Because as long as it remains a thing after it had a shrinkage.
What? The shrinkage can happen, but when it's rival, its very existence is rival.
It's still an empire.
When its very existence.
That's the point.
What? By this logic, okay. By this logic, just because the British Empire shrunk, is it still in existence? By this logic?
Well, it's no longer an empire. It's physically been dismantled as an empire. It is now. They're a commonwealth of people who are a part of it.
No, it just shrunk. It just shrunk. That's what happened. There was a shrinkage of the British Empire.
Well, if you want to say it like that, then rule Britannia, Britannia rule the waves, etc. But we all know that's not what it means. We're not changing the definition of what it is. If Vitality have an era from now until the midway through next year, if you would concede 7 straight events to be, I guess, an era, then we would kind of have to look at it as, why would we have 2 eras? That's just 2 incredible spells within an overall era.
I just don't think this entire fall season, except for the Budapest Major, honestly, except for the Budapest Major playoffs, has not been a Vitality era. I did not feel that the Counter-Strike scene was being ruled by Vitality as I was watching those quarterfinals. I did not feel that way. I didn't feel like it was being ruled by anybody. That's my point. It doesn't feel like we didn't have a big dominant team at that point. It definitely wasn't Vitality. They were second best at best.
Second best at best. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, there were times where they were second. That's fine.
In the sense that the eras are ruled by one team dominating the scene. Fact of the matter is, Vitality did not do that for a period of several months.
They weren't the number 1 team from when to when exactly? It was maybe 2?
Start of the fall season, and they hit number 1 after winning Budapest. If we're going by the ranking, there's a couple of weeks of inertia.
They didn't start the full season, not number 1. But yeah, okay.
No, but they started losing, and there wasn't a win in the fall season, which would keep them up there. It took several months before they won an event in the fall season. There's one event win in between this major and Austin major. Mongols took over the number 1 after winning Esports World Cup. If you want to draw the line when they stop being number 1 on an actual ranking, on an actual ranking, if you want to draw the line, then yeah, okay, I think we're talking about 12, 14 weeks not being the number 1 team. And that's not just like a ranking thing. We've had several other teams hit that number 1 spot. Point being, Vitality weren't. It doesn't really matter who was. Vitality weren't.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't define it by a pure ranking. I'll trust the HLTV ranking algorithm to a certain point. It's not even about that. It is just about the fact that Vitality haven't looked that good. They've been distinctly different. They've been distinctly a level below where their era was, to the point where they were worse than other teams.
Yeah, again, there's all these words and definitions you throw in there where it's like there are too many periods in every era where you can make that case. If I want to use those words, if I want to say there are periods then times that they weren't the number one team, they weren't, explicitly winning everything. Yeah, there are times in every era, pretty much, where that's true.
You can, of course. It depends on what, like, how short or long the time period is. I think if you were trying to make a case for Astralis being that any time between the start of their era and the Katowice 2019 major, at any time in there, yeah, you could probably find a period where they weren't the best, where they lost, for example, where they lost an event. But you know as well as I do that Astralis never lost 2 consecutive events in their era period. Sure, there's going to be dips. There's going to be somebody else being strong.
That they attended, yes. People won multiple events without them.
That they attended.
Because of Blastralis, sure. Yeah. Like the whole caveat with the Astralis era is that they kind of built their own fucking circuit, then went and won like a bunch of events there, which is a bit of a thing. Let's be real, a bit of a problem. But yes,
it's just try. Vitality had a fall off period where they got significantly worse. And they didn't win anything for, off the top of my head, I think it is 3 or 4 months. You cannot find that in the Fnatic era. You cannot find that in the Astralis era. If you try to make a case for an SKLG era, you cannot find that in there either. It doesn't exist.
Well, no, not it does exist in the SKLG, like, sort of weirdness. It does. They don't win. They win. Their most consistent period of winning actually is in 2017, and that's why SKLG is often vaguely like.
Yep.
This big 2016-17 umbrella.
Yeah.
But I do think the strictness of your terms, I think, can kind of screw with the Fnatic era.
I'm just going to note as well, because there was a question, did Astralis ever lose number 1? No, between 23rd of April 2018 to 27th of May 2019, which is, they were number 1 continuously. They dipped
till
after
May
that,
of
they
2019.
Number 4. End of May 2019. Like it's mid-April until end of 2019.
Did
over a year they were continuously.
Did their era extend till their third major win? Holy fuck.
No, because that's still a couple of months later when they were number 4 on the ranking. That's when they won in Berlin. I don't think their era extends for the entire period they were number 1. I think the argument is that they started losing, but there's a bit of inertia because the ranking doesn't update. It's not short notice enough for that. If I'm making the same case for Vitality, how long were they number 1? Well, they were number 1 for all of the spring season except for the wake of Last Bounty. And if I'm looking at the ranking, well, yeah, they did hit number 1 on the HLTV ranking at the end of March, and then they stayed there until let me see exactly when did they lose HLTV? I'm trying until late September, which would be around the time when Mongols had won Esports World Cup. Spirit had won Cologne, and Vitality were losing to both Falcons and Mongols and Mouse at several points. So, yeah, if I'm gonna draw a hard line, it's like, okay, the most I can extend the Vitality era to is late September, because that's when they lost HLTV number 1. Then they were a bit up and down. Now they've won again.
Yeah. I'm going to be real. We're going to both be very different in terms of how we define all majors historically, eras historically. And I do feel like your terms, your literal terms you always use in these conversations, do eliminate all but probably just Astralis.
Probably. Well, Fnatic.
Oh no, they lose events left, right, and center. They play a lot of the events as well, and they lose to a variety of different teams.
They were continuously on a... but they were continuously on a very, very high level, continuously the very best team. And as I also say, this is also a very subjective... It's a very subjective thing what you even consider to be dominant. It's just... This is why we are different as well. Vitality were just not dominant. Fnatic, at that time, as far as I've seen... I wasn't that involved in it at the time, but as far as I've seen when I look back, yeah, they are dominant. They dominate.
Yeah, 4 straight events they don't win. towards, like, it's weird where it all depends as well where you decide to draw your lines on what the Fnatic era is, because it's
and I don't have that in my head. Astralis, I
objectively not that
can
great.
tell you it's April 2018 until about 10 months later. That's probably where I draw the line for Astralis. For Fnatic, I don't have the dates in my head. For Vitality, I would say if you're forcing me to call the spring season an era, which I still think is a little bit, it's the shortest era. It's on the edge.
It's literally the most
But
impressive.
if you're forcing me to do it, call it anything other than
like
it's the most impressive season of all time. Yes.
Like if it's not an era, again,
it's just something
you have to piss away everything else.
If I'm drawing parallels to other sports, I'm not calling anything a Red Bull era, despite the fact they won every race in an F1 season. I'm not calling that a Red Bull era.
Okay.
And that's what I'm not calling it a Mercedes era because
I don't like the comparisons in that sense, because we always have this problem where we talk about titles. The titles don't work the same
because they won.
We don't play the same sort of circuit. We don't do the same sort of things. It's not comparable to, I think, any real sport.
But this is the context I'm in. I don't call it a Mercedes era because they won every driver's title between 2014 and 2020. I don't call it that. I don't call it a Lewis Hamilton era because he won all but one and should have won in 2016. I don't call it I don't say any of these things because in my opinion, it's not. I don't think the dominance was clear enough. To be honest, Red Bull's dominance was cool. It was one big season. There were still weaknesses. They lucked out in other cases.
Okay, this is getting real.
The Mercedes era. So the Mercedes era. Look, if
you were a pundit talking Formula One, they won everything pretty much for 6 years. You wouldn't call it their era. That's crazy.
To be fair, we also just don't use that terminology in F1 whatsoever. The era word is never used. And there's a lot of other factors at play. I guess when you do use the era, you're talking about different technical regulations. You're talking the hybrid era, which is we had hybrid engines.
Yes, but please use the context of the conversation upon which we're using the term era. If
I'm paralleling to a sport that I know well. I'm paralleling to a sport that I know well to see what makes sense in my head based on these two sports that I really enjoy and that I love watching. I'm honestly entirely fine. I'm entirely fine with if we're drawing a hard line. Astralis might be the only legitimate era. I would probably put NIP up there, despite there not being any majors. Like if there are no majors, you can't win the majors. I might put NIP up there, but that is also an extremely impressive run of events, more impressive than Astralis. If you're looking at the results themselves, you go 87-0. That is more impressive than anything Vitality or Astralis did on paper. In hindsight, it was a weak field. There were only a couple of teams who could even compete with an IP, etc., etc., etc. But if we're equating these two periods of history and we need to draw a line, what's an era? NIP, Astralis, Vitality, I guess. Fnatic, I'm not super well versed in Fnatic or SK and LG. I was kind of not as involved there, but yeah, that's where I'm entirely fine with that being the line that I draw. I'm entirely fine with if Fnatic fall away. I'm entirely fine with the Brazilian era falling away. I'm entirely fine with Astralis being the only one because Astralis did something incredible, which had never been done, has never been done after the fact. If that is the only era, that's fine. That's how much the word means that much to me. It's like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a weird place to be. As someone who, just like in terms of your hardline definitions, something you've arrived to after we already had established definitions, is just the part that probably triggers the fuck out of me. Because we already had a Fnatic era. We already had an SKLG era in terms of historical context and conversations. And to now, as someone who never watched those teams, set rules and boundaries and lines that kind of just fuck everything up and like change everything, warps everything. Because a team being dominant for a stretch, if they make every top four, they make half the grand finals, all of a sudden the dominance, because it was on the same level, is refuted and untrue. It's 3 straight events at the start of their run. Fnatic lose. They lose 3 series to TSM, a series to Virtus Pro, and I just looked up a series to Titan. Like, they lose 5 series across 3 events, mostly to TSM, but also to other teams, one of which wasn't even a top team. Like, these are eras that are just no longer valid. Because someone knows best. You know, that's kind of how it feels. Like, you're setting lines that just ruin the rest of CS history in that sense. Like,
the trap card I can pull out then is that eras are also different. Like, air time periods are also different. We had a different ecosystem. We had more events. We had a way different competitive scene than we do now. Right now, you have this year. I think we've had 14 big events. I think off the top of my head.
Yeah, technically in 2015 we only had 6 big events by HLTV like lines. Like, if you filter it, there's only like 6 that appear. But if you look at actual international LAN plays that like LANs that Fnatic play, they play like 20 something.
Yeah, and a lot of those were also invitationals. You maybe had only 4, 6, or 8 teams in attendance. It's way different from having a 24-team event or a 16-team event where with a group stage and playoffs, which is actually like way different. So in that sense, Fnatic losing a couple where maybe it was single elimination, maybe it was, you know, show up, the winning team plays 9 maps in total. There's a lot of events like that. Circumstances are a bit different. Also mattered like how many you could go to, how many you were going to. With Fnatic going to so many more events, I can maybe excuse losing 1 or 2, because losing 2 or 3 consecutive events in that time probably meant you only played for a month. While in 2025, losing 1 event means you don't win anything in a 6-week period. Like, that's so in that sense it's very different. It's very different in that sense. So yeah, but it's and yes, Asylum, I said NIP and Astralis are valid. Fnatic, I trust people who say it's valid. I don't see how Fnatic falls away because of the fact that I'm saying Vitality stopped being dominant. They stopped being the dominant
Because of the lines
team.
where you drew them. The things you said about what stopped being dominant were there. They're there. They lost to several different opponents across multiple events.
Were Vitality clearly the singular dominant team 4 weeks ago?
No.
Yes or no? The era was over then.
But if I could point, you can point the same things, the same holes, the same problems.
The fact, I think what my problem is, if you're going to extend it to this event and this run, you can say Vitality were still up there. I could say that it's maybe a Vitality era if I'm looking at an extremely wide timescale. If in 5 years we look back, which team defined the period 2023 to 2026, Vitality might be that team. With 3 major titles, continuously high level, the best player, basically the best or the second best player in every one of those years. Bam! This could be the Vitality era if you're saying this time, the start of CS2. Since the start of CS2, who is the best? Yeah, it's probably Vitality. But that doesn't mean I think we are in the Vitality era right now, because I don't think that CSGO was the Astralis era. I don't think 2019 to 2017 is the Astralis era. I think the Astralis era is April 2018 to March 2019, February, March, whenever Katowice was. That's what we don't define it that way. If you're looking at a very broad time span, then I can excuse the dip and I can say, yeah, well, they had a dip, they were still dominant. Nobody else comes close to touching Vitality as the best team of this, like this. But yeah. And no, J50chan, Liquid didn't win a Grand Slam mid Astralis era. Astralis era was over. That was the start of this discussion. Astralis era ended before Liquid won their Grand Slam. And it's not Liquid that ended the era. Astralis ended the era by being trash. Or being worse, anyway. Comparatively trash to being by far the best team in the world. Vitality ended their era by being comparatively much worse than the most successful single season in history. Which is what defined their era. What defines the era? It's the run of 7 events. It's the run of dominating the spring season. That defines their era. They stopped. It's not just that they stopped winning consecutively, they stopped winning whatsoever. That's why the Vitality era ends.
This is a line in the sand that will constantly be brought back up, I'm sure, as we continue to progress through time, as Counter-Strike viewers. This is a terrible line to draw. But okay, let's move on. Let's move on.
Yep.
Because there's going to be plenty more bickering towards the end of this year. But first, we got to do a little segment that
Yeah.
I've decided will now be more and more frequent. We're going to talk about who's the real MVP. The real MVP. And there's 3 ways we want to have this conversation. I've decided. So first off,
Yep.
You the real MVP.
thank you, Kevin Durant. Anyway, the real MVP. Now, the first part of the conversation has to be ZywOo or Rops. In terms of the actual HLTV MVP that was awarded, who's the real MVP? Now, we got some fucking some reasoning out of HLTV because they made a choice. They decided that the real MVP was ZywOo. Right? And that seems strange on the face of it to a lot of people. Because having watched the major, watching the semi-finals and the final especially, you could see that there was a clear step up. Right? Rops played a fantastic semi. The grand final, Mezzi was huge. Rops was huge. And ZywOo, I honestly barely noticed. Like he wasn't that. He was in the best of 5 to end it all. Didn't notice him. So I understood entirely why everyone immediately kind of lost their shit. And then you read the HLTV justification, because historically we're used to, if you're the better player in the bigger games and your ratings are the same, well, the bigger games win. And they've gone back to it. I'm not saying it's a new tiebreaker. I should correct myself. But they used the tiebreaker of kills per round win, which I could do a fucking video just on how much I don't like that as a stat. Because I've had to argue this with a lot of people when it comes to rating. Just because I did my job and you fuckers didn't mean my kills were empty. That's not the same thing. There's a reason we have round swing and other things like that to try and estimate value of kills too, but kills per round win? Come on, spare me. Don't like it as a concept. But they went to that tiebreaker, and that also, I think, annoyed some people. Because we had the clear as day, like what we typically expect to be the tiebreaker, in terms of we played a semi-final, Rops was the best player. We played a grand final, Rops and Mezzi were clearly the best players. Why is it a discussion beyond that point? It's not like they were different. And yes, the quarterfinal is heavily ZywOo. ZywOo has a 2.18, it's great. But it's also the game where Vitality struggled the least as a team. They utterly smashed Mongols, everything went right. So I'm just a bit... I want to hear your take on it. My initial reaction was similar to the community's in that this feels like you're just trying to give ZywOo the MVP. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it. That's my initial reaction. So, quick, where's your stance in terms of the MVPs, how they're awarded in general, but specifically this one? Which one would you have preferred?
I'm still on the feeling that oppers get some free credit in terms of their statistics, based on their role. So when I see ZywOo and Rops are basically at the same rating, and especially in the playoffs, they had the exact same average rating.
Yeah, they're both a 140.
Then
They're
I'm sort of
different
like
140s, but they're both a 140.
Yes, and the further they went into the event, Rops got better than ZywOo. He outperforms him rating wise in both the semi and the final. Then I do lean towards Rops. I do lean towards it. ZywOo's not an invalid MVP. There's been other MVPs awarded to players like ZywOo and players like ZywOo, where it does feel like it's stolen. Where it does feel like, against a different opponent in the MVP race, you would have lost. But because it's ZywOo, he wins. Those exist. They have existed. So in that sense, I'm not massively upset. Yeah. I would have liked to see Rops do it. I don't have as big an issue with kills per round win as you do.
Well, that's a concept.
I think as a concept, I think it's valuable. Comparing kills per round win to KPR is you know, it's a less padded stat if you win. Well, okay, hang on, sorry. Is it kills per round 1 or is it kills in 1 rounds? Because the literal meaning of what they're saying is divide the amount of kills by the amount of 1 rounds, which shouldn't change anything. Like, I understand, but just I'm double checking.
I see what you mean.
So I got it right.
No. It's kills in rounds you win. Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be incredibly redundant, and everyone's KPI would be
exactly,
3 in kills per round win by that logic.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, so that's why I did feel that obviously that's what it is, but I was just double checking because that's a bit of a misnomer. But yeah, kills per round win in that case. When you're in the end, you still have to win the rounds, and you still have to somebody has to get those kills to win those rounds. So I can see the value in it. I'm wondering if that is eco adjusted.
It's not. The point of the stat is to measure who is most impactful in rounds 1. That's the idea of it. And it's basically to say this player causes this much winning with their kills. So their kills are more valuable. But that's not by itself what you've actually measured with the stat kills. You've just measured in rounds 1 who got the kills. Yes, you haven't measured the value of the kill at all. You haven't. Because I've made this example to people before. I am Mr. Hard Entry, or I am some other role on the team. I go out, I get 2 kills, and die. I have done my job. This is why I always endorsed an idea similar to round swing. My team's win percent has gone from, especially on T side, from 40% to about 77%. My kills had massive value. Just because it then gets all thrown away doesn't mean I didn't get massively valuable kills. So I don't like just a blanket, sort of critical approach to it in that sense. I could see you could have made the case differently. You could talk about round swing. Yes, I know, but I'm saying round swing is also not the entire rating. It's also adjusted in other ways. But that's basically my point, is that kills per round win shouldn't matter in that sense. Like, that shouldn't be your tiebreaker. I hated kills per round win specifically. Yeah. If they'd have said he edges him in round swing and therefore we're going to give it, then we go back to your problem with AWPers. And AWPers and their value. And we all know they win round swing just because it's what they do. In gun rounds, they get kills because they have the AWP.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm a bit... I understand the furor. I was on the same page initially. I'd still rather it went to Robs. Even if I can accept some ideas.
The round swing... I think the round swing argument would agree with you there. Because when I'm looking at... across the event, Zaibu has a higher round swing. Across the playoffs alone, with all 3 games included, Zaibu has a slightly round swing. It's about, Rops is slightly below 4%, Zaibu is slightly above 4%.
Yeah,
semi-finals onwards, Rops is at a 3.58, and Zaibu is at a 1.76. That's a significant margin in favor of Rops, and I would assume the grand final is maybe an even bigger gap. Rops goes above 4 in the grand final, and Zaibu ends at a 186. If they'd said the tiebreaker was the overall round swing, in basically what they said in the article is Zaibu had the lead going into the final, so it was basically the final that decided it. And I'm assuming the numbers they're showing are numbers from the final itself. They could have just shown the round swing number, but I think if that was the tiebreaker, Rops would have won. So I'm a little bit confused as to exactly why. Did they look at that? Because if you're looking at, you need a tiebreaker, all right? You need a tiebreaker. Zaibu's in the lead. Rops puts in a good performance, which puts him level with Zaibu. His round swing is that much better in the grand final. Maybe I'm misreading it. I'm probably misinterpreting what they're trying to say. But the round swing is significant for Rops, both in the semi-final and in the grand final. And
if our goal was to do a tiebreaker based on winning impact, and you've built a fantastic new advanced metric for winning impact, why are you not using it instead using kills per round win? I'm just saying the propaganda, the people starting conspiracy theories about them trying to give ZywOo #1 this year and trying to give as many MVPs just to fucking push it. It feels slightly validating for those people. Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And this is
no, Aslim. It's not the standard tiebreaker. We are not agreeing on that point because we're trying to fuel the fucking conspiracy theories. We're fueling the conspiracy theories. We're not being sensible.
Yeah, it's not. It's obviously a committee award. It's not just them. But Nero did write the article. We could maybe ask him.
Yes, Nero on the show, live calling.
Let's call him up. No, we can maybe. Honestly, I might ask him about that. And I can get back to you next week. But yeah, I can't. Robs could have had it, and I feel like if you're trying to measure impact with kills per run, when Robs should have had it, as you say. But
yeah, I
said, it's also it is close enough where it is almost splitting hairs. Where
it is, say, we are splitting hairs, but it's just I don't like that when I go to the justification section and it's kills per round win, and I'm like, why that stat? Now maybe I just never read these because they're never important. You know, we never usually have them close, so maybe they are genuinely always using kills per round win to split tough decisions. In any case, it's not a good stat. I don't like the stat.
That's the case.
You know, I've had the argument before in like the Lagoon Discord. I remember having to yell at, I'm not sure if it was you or someone else who was just being dense when it came to things like round swing, and why it matters and why kills in lost rounds still matter, and for evaluating a player's performance. I just don't like. I don't like it. So whatever. We'll let it be.
Yeah.
He still played a fantastic event, did ZywOo. We're not trying to be anti-ZywOo. Just didn't notice him in the grand final, which is weird. But who's the next real MVP I want to talk about? Mezzi, we touched on him before. That grand final probably isn't... It's not lost without him, but it certainly isn't this without him. So if you want to talk MVP of the grand final, has to be Mezzi, in part because he was one of the only good things about their nuke. He was fantastic on Dust 2. He was fantastic on Inferno. Then Overpass, he's AFK, but at that point, Rops is just winning it so one-handedly that it doesn't matter. Like, single-handedly, it's just Rops.
Yeah.
Heavy carrying.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with still giving him final MVP, even if he has 6-6, negative round swing, and basically AFK on the Overpass. Like, Overpass, he might as well have not played. He might as well have not played Overpass. That's how much Rops did. Cough, cough, real MVP.
Yeah.
But yeah, MVP of the final, Mezzi. I think I'm happy with that. Just happy with Mezzi's. He was good in the entire playoff run. Like he put in a really solid showing where Flame Z, typically a player in the big games we expect to show up, wasn't. This was Mezzi just, I think, his best event of his career. Like in terms of the importance of it, how he played in the playoffs. The kind of the culmination of everything he's been building up to be. This is Mezzi. GOAT support. Right here.
Yeah. Excellent job. I have no notes. Like you said, probably the support GOAT.
It's a conversation.
Like the support player GOAT. It is a conversation, which is worth having. Who would be the other candidates? Just we're talking all time. Yes.
It's Zipex. There'd be someone out there who'd be like, Perfecto. It's like, bro, he's AFK.
I would be the guy. Prime Perfecto. Prime
Perfecto was just really good at being AFK. You understand? Prime Perfecto was during the simple carrying the fuck out of you era.
Yeah.
Find me the
it was up there.
Find me the Perfecto game. But yeah, Zipex. Yeah, okay. I'm going to put Perfecto there just because people are going to mention him. People are going to mention Magus. They're going to ignore the Astralis super team. And that he wasn't supportive in that same way. MBK is the other great choice.
I think Perfecto. I think Perfecto might genuinely be. He probably has to go top 5 even if he was AFK. Just because I can't think of that many like clear standout candidates.
Thank you for reminding me, Marek. Crims. There we go. Perfecto is no longer even a viable option for top 5.
Yeah, Crims is there. Is there Phase player? No, I can't think of one. It would have to be like Olaf Meister, but you wouldn't give him that. I'll give him the title for being flexible, but I won't give him.
He had briefly a really great stint as the face support post Fnatic, where he did post pop-off performances whilst also being supportive. Like, he had moments, but Crims, MBK, Zip, Mezzy. There's got to be one more that I can put in there just so I can not say Perfecto.
I'm trying to say, if you could, depending on how you define support, you could maybe give it to somebody like a Rain or a Taco or something. Because they are supportive in the sense that they play bitchy roles.
Yeah, Taco's one. Rain is a maybe. Because it's never fully support with Rain. That's the problem.
Yeah.
He always does have active spots, and like on CT side, like there's certain spots where he doesn't have to be like a bitch anchor because there's someone else who's willing to do it, who's just a passive player or something. Or is Carrigan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of a fifth. I don't think Naf counts. Naf doesn't count for me.
Is there one of the old Navi players?
Like Seized had a really good stretch as a player, and Seized maybe he's no. I don't think he has a more compelling case than Perfecto in that sense, though. So maybe I have to concede Perfecto's 5, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I think look, okay, Perfecto across his career, no, he's a bit of a, he drops off quite hard. He's not particularly impressive before they were super good, but then, you know, towards the end of Navi, he was also getting priority. Like, he was playing short on Mirage. Like, Blade was putting him on short on Mirage and put fucking, I can't remember who he was putting as small side anchor, but it was insane. It's
well, Bit could anchor, Boomich could
if we're
anchor,
talking like peak performances.
RGL, so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he put Electronic on there though.
Oh right.
There was
a
start at when they played with NPL, which would have been, they still had the Russian players.
That's a whole mess.
But they played with NPL. Yeah, but there was distinctly remember that one game where NIP that one event where NIP played with Maxter because Hampus had a medical thing or something before Config joined. I remember watching that, and they played the entire Mirage CT side Navi did with just both sides flipped, where you had, I'm pretty sure it was NPL and Perfecto being the connector and short player, and you had fucking Bit and Electronic anchoring one bomb site each. Which was just
is a more anchoring sort of rifle, like that makes sense, but Electronic
right,
is,
like Bit works out, but what the fuck was going on in that team? If we're talking like peak periods, I can actually see what Merrick is saying with JKS on G2. Like, I think peak JKS on peak G2 was very good. You could maybe give it to Twists, or is it hyperbolic when he said he was the best support player in the world? In Liquid, Twist.
Yeah, I know.
Period in Liquid when they were good.
I don't think he's
he's
a bit, but it's not.
It's more of a rain thing there. Where
it's a bit in between. Like, it's a bit. It's just a team with a slightly weird set of roles, and you kind of support, but you're not actually the support in the way we talk about a Zip or a Mezzy.
Yeah. Because that team was also a mess when you had Nitro, Stewie, and Naf opping, and you had, Twist probably wanting to play Elige's roles, but then also like
some of Elige's roles. But
you also had Naf. Yeah, it's what a mess. I'll give it to Sanji just for cultural impact. As we know, the GOAT debate is also in part cultural impact, so I'll give it to Sanji.
Anyway,
he mogs everybody else as the GOAT support player.
The final real MVP candidate, Quacker. Tell us the story. Everyone needs to hear it from your mouth. Tell us why your mum is the real MVP. And for that, before we even talk, we need the quote again from Kevin Durant, because it is literally perfect.
You the real MVP.
Thank you, KD. Quacker, take it away.
My mom is the greatest of all time. This was yesterday morning when I was just home from the karaoke bar at about 4:30 the night before. I had a taxi picking me up at 11 to go to the airport, and I set 6 alarms for 9 a.m. So I would actually wake up. When I woke up, the alarms were going. They weren't making sound. It was just a thing on my phone screen which said, "Do you want to snooze this alarm?" And there was no sound. And I'd also texted my mom I have a cab at 11. Could you call me at 10:30 just to make sure I'm awake? Turns out, I usually don't have the signal on my phone. I just have my watch. My watch hits 0% during the night, and like my smartwatch. So my phone was making no noise when she was calling, and I was getting no vibration or anything. At 10:48, the hotel room phone calls with the most jarring ringtone you could ever imagine. I thought it was a fire alarm. And I pick it up like, hello, because at this point I'm already slightly sick. I'm very tired. And I don't know what the fuck is going on. I didn't look at the time at this point. Hello, we got a call from your mother. I don't think he said it. He said her name. We got a call. You have a taxi waiting for 11, we heard. And I was like, okay, yes, thank you. Fuck. I'm gonna miss my flight. This is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the cab is gonna leave without me. So I hurriedly pack everything up. I was a bit worried, when I was actually at the airport, and I was like, my bag feels suspiciously light. Have I left something very important back at the hotel? But yeah, anyway.
It turns out just 2 days hanging out with me, you already got twice as strong.
Yep, true. I make the cab. The cab is there. I check out and everything. I make the flight. I would honestly, to be honest, in hindsight, I would have made the flight anyway because it was over an hour delayed out of Budapest. So
yeah,
in hindsight, but holy shit, my mom is the goat because she realized I wasn't awake, so she called the hotel, and that is why she is the goat. She called a random hotel in Budapest and was like, "Can you please call up to the room and see if he's there because we are not reaching him, and he has to get to a flight. He has to get to a flight out of Budapest." She is the goat. She is getting the biggest Christmas gift of all time at some point. Well, on Christmas. But I have to figure out what it is, and I love her very much, and thank you very much, Mom. You are the MVP of my Budapest major.
Yes. Quack is
the
Mom,
real MVP.
The real MVP. But all right, let's get into our small site retakes.
Yes.
We got other things to discuss. We are now 2 hours in. Love it. What an episode.
Yes. Holy shit.
It gets laggier and laggier. The delay between your voice and face keeps extending. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is on your end because the same is happening to you. Like occasionally your sound, the audio from you freezes, but the cam keeps going. So I'm pretty sure, or maybe it's not either of our faults. It's just Discord.
Maybe it's Discord. Maybe it's Video Ninja, which we use for the cameras. But anyway, let's get into this.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with save Grix. We need to save Grix because, look, he's not in the worst scenario in the world. He's on a team. It's just the team is terrible. And without him, they would be 160th in the world, I think. And that's my estimate. I don't really know the exact stats. But I think they'd be roughly 160th. Over the period he's been on this big side, they have won 60.9% of their maps. He has a rating of 1.32. The next highest rated player on the team is JDC at a 1.06. There are 2 players sub 1.0, including their IGL at a 0.87. This is a one-man army. Completely a one-man army, and he's winning events. Like, sure, one of them is Sky Sports Chennai, whatever, but one CCT Europe 12. He's got 0.92 KPR in that event. Like, he's doing bits. And so I again ask Heroic, where did the talent go when you handled him? Was it his fault? Was it really his fault? Or could you not figure out, give my AWPer a bit of freedom and he will win games? So I'm frustrated because I know I need to have this conversation now. He's only barely started playing for Big, but I need to have this conversation now. I need to bring it up. I need to start pushing it. I need to start getting the people moving and getting the people mad. Because he's on a team of really weak individuals with no real prospects. And it's only going to get worse.
Yes.
It's only going to get worse. Like, this is all well and good. When everyone else comes back from their, like, already kind of early started winter break, because a lot of teams who were kind of playing Tier 2 Cups went and played Stage 1, some of the tougher ones. You're not going to be able to win the CCTs with just this kid and a prayer. You're going to need to get him some help. And that it's not probably going to come in the form of big signing big names and big signing great players. There's two ways this goes. It either goes terribly off a cliff bad, as I'm predicting, or they do the kind of thing where a team kind of like, works its way up to one sort of decent, okay run where it's clearly inferior players do something. Maybe it might. It could maybe with enough brain power figure out some roles and qualify for one event, then get utterly smashed and go home. Like I think that's probably what we're looking forward to. Like at best. So I'm already signing off. Like this is not going to work. We need more top hoppers in top CS. Grix looks like he's going to be one. Please, for the love of God, Heroic, don't sign the player I saw you rumored to sign. Actually, never mind. That wasn't an AWPer. Ignore that. Basically, anyone in the top 30 could do with Grix. Could have done with Grix. Save Grix. That's my piece.
Yeah. I can't find it now. I tried to search for it, but I did see another rumor basically saying that there's going to be more changes in Big, how they are not happy with Freeze and his calling, and they're going to get another IGL, and it's going to be a whole yada 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 yada. Jesus Christ, what is this team? What is happening in this team? I don't understand. And yeah, it's Grix is amazing. Probably the only good part of this Big team at the moment. It's somehow enough to win a CCT season.
The grand final. Like I checked, I was following the grand final vaguely from a distance, and that's actually Grix's worst series of the run.
Yeah,
so I know someone's going to hit me with some pithy little message about that, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Save
JDC
Grix.
he played a good game against ex-Betera. Whoop-de fucking do. It's good job, JDC. But like, how much more time is Tabson gonna get on here? How much more time? Are we gonna try players like Freeze and Process? Like I've liked Process. He's got something, there could have been something.
He's got balls. That's the one thing I've always liked about Process. He's not been scared at the moment of the fight, but he's not mega talented.
He's got something. Like that's the thing, yeah. Like he's got a bit of there's something here. You could maybe have developed it. But they've been trying for 3 years, maybe even 4 years, whenever he joined Big Academy and We Play Academy. And he's been up and down, up and down. It's like, I'm kind of thinking give it up. I'm kind of thinking, why are you going in Freeze? What's going on here? JDC I've always liked as a player, but like he doesn't have the ceiling to stack up to what sort of a team I think Big should be with Grix. Like relative to, if I was supposing that Big are going to be, the Big as a whole are going to be as good as Grix, then JDC's not it. Tabson's not it. Freeze is definitely not it. Process probably not it, unfortunately either. There has to come a time when we pull the plug on Tabson and Big as a whole. Fuck Big, man. It's save Grix. Fuck Big. Just it's a shame a team can't sign 2 AWPers, because it would be nice if they signed both Grix and J-Bowen and got them out of there at the same time. Package deal. Just save them both before their careers are ruined.
Yeah, we do need to. And I'm just currently looking at a allstar.gg clip from, they played Oromund in the quarterfinal. Map 3, they win 13-11. Grix is a 2.09 rating. He wins the round. He starts with a scout, finds an AWP, and gets an ace. It's just, this is everything you want to see. Hang on, is this link going to work? Yeah. Let's find out. There we go. I've stuck the clip in chat if anyone wants to go watch it. I need this kid on a better team. Now, I've already made a tweet this year about Jorko and saying he's going to be in the conversations to be on every team that needs an AWP next year. Grix has already been in that conversation this year. It's going to continue, and hopefully someone actually does. Hopefully it's not the case that, I don't know, if Heroic come out and there's a leak and turns out Grix joined the team and stabbed one of the managers and said, I'll do it again, haha. Like, yeah, sure, okay, maybe we're not signing him. But Big clearly didn't get that message, so why has nobody else tried it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Just like, yes, they did win. They did win the event. It's a pretty weak bracket they go up against. It's not the CCT brackets you sometimes get where you have to go through Bet Boom, Foot. I guess Bet Boom were here maybe, but like it's not. You're not going through the absolute top tier opposition in this case. Um,
No, they're not.
yeah.
But that's my point. In future, they won't be able to get through these brackets and win the little cups and get their VRS
No.
boost from them. So save Grix now. Save Grix now before it's too late.
Yes. There's a good opportunity to do it. They beat 9 in the semifinal. Fabian is available. In theory, anyway. He's benched. So try it. Try it out if you must stay German. Actually, no, you
Aside
don't
from
must stay
Grix.
German. Grix doesn't speak German. You have so many options. Yeah, you can. ZTR and LNZ both exist and are available. You probably have some options that might trickle down from other teams. Ecstatic, all the players are transfer listed. If you want to go for somebody there. Big are like a big actor. They're a big org. You can do whatever the fuck you want, I feel like. At this level of play, you can do whatever the fuck you want. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's my small site. Just a quick shout out, quick PSA. Please help the boy. Quack.
Yep.
Inside the press room.
Hell yeah.
What was happening? What's the scoop?
Yes. Just very briefly, I wanted to talk about how the press room was set up in Starlighters Major. Because it was fun. It's the first time I've ever been in that big of an event press section. Only other time I've ever been in a press section at an event with a dedicated press section was DreamHack 2014, and that was just a room with free Monster Energy and a couple of couches, which is usually what a press room is, to be honest. But in this case, there was a mixed zone. It was specifically an area where players were forced to come through, which is a very good thing. You force the players, all of the players and coaches need to go through the mixed zone so you can catch them and be like, hey, have an interview. They don't have to say yes, but at least you know you're going to get the opportunity. You don't have to text the manager and be like, hey, is it possible for me to get an interview? Because that's a tricky thing. Anyway, day one, I didn't have one of these. Day one, I had a creator badge. I was hoping to get a press badge. It was unfortunately not possible. So I have no idea what the situation was like between Falcons and Mongols, and after those games, I don't know about in the room at that point. But from Friday onwards, the Mouse and Furia guys were actually very good. I kind of regret I didn't try to get another Mouse guy or a Furia guy for an interview because I was just going for Brolan and I was happy with that. But they stuck around, did a lot of interviews. We could literally just walk up to somebody and be like, hey, do you want to have a quick chat? Worked out perfectly. The next days onwards from that was quite bad. So the trickiest thing about the press room was that teams were mostly saying no to every single interview. And that is such a big shame, I think, because we're doing this for them. Like it's no, but like it's to their benefit to have interviews and be visible. And that's why it's such a shame when like Spirit Vitality ended. The Spirit guys show up first, and they literally like you have to go through the mixed zone. They took that literally, opened the door. The only person I heard say a word was Shiro because I was standing in front of the door when it opened, and he said, "I'm sorry." And I moved out of the way. The only word I heard from any of the Spirit guys, as all the 5 players and the coach went through, ran through the mixed zone and out again. Didn't speak to anybody, which is such a shame because there could have been so many interesting questions asked about Spirit after losing the semifinal to Vitality. But hey, that's also kind of what Spirit are like. Like we don't get to hear a lot from inside of Spirit, which is a shame. Then Vitality. They had, I think, an interview booked with HLTV at that point. Like they went to some of the big networks were able to book them. But then I was asking the manager before the players even showed up, like, will you be able to fit in like a 4 or 5 questions for Fragbite? He's like, no, we're doing nothing. We're doing nothing except for HLTV and like one of the 3 French outlets which were there. Again, it's like, okay, so literally everybody in the press room got nothing out of the mixer zone except HLTV. bit of a shame. It then turned out like that a lot of people were talking to the managers, and it was basically the same story was also the case for, like, I was asking FaZe, I was asking after their game against Navi, I was asking, you know, asking about that. What another tricky part is, because I was asking around like who's usually approachable, and they're like, you should ask the Navi guys. They're usually up for an interview. They're usually up for a chat. So I asked the Navi guys after their game against after the game against Mouse? No, against Furia. After the game against Furia, I asked them, and so I asked like Alexia, I asked Makaze, I asked Amy, and I asked Alexia B. Please note, this was the last game of the day. It was a long game. We had 1 overtime and 3 maps. It was past midnight. And this is another thing about the scheduling, which is tricky. All the players said no because they were too tired. All the players were like, we have to get back to the hotel. We're not doing any other interview except for Alexi talking to HLTV, and I think Emma did like a perfect world thing. If the games were earlier, even just an hour earlier, I'm pretty sure they would be fine having a quick 5-question chat with everybody who was there. But it was basically like after the players had left the mix zone, we were all like asking each other like, did you get anything? Like, fuck no. I asked several players, they all said no. They were too tired, they had to whatever. The only other thing which was a bit tricky is that we were originally told that we could just grab and we were originally told that we were supposed to put requests in with the press manager, and those requests would be done first, and then we would do basically be able to grab anybody. After that, the problem was mid-event they changed it to now we don't make requests anymore. We should just grab anybody. But people kept making requests, and they never told the teams that was happening. So usually when we walked up to the manager and asked, do you have any interviews? And they're like, did you put in a request? And we said, no, they told us not to do that. And they're like, we've already filled out the request, and we don't want to do anything else. So there became like a mismatch where like the outlets that the players and managers knew, like the interviewers who they knew, had a pretty easy time getting interviews with everybody, which is like a privilege of being known, of course. But it did kind of defeat the purpose of having a mixed zone in the first place, because it was just no. And that was a bit tricky. The major champions, like we were sort of the feeling was like major champions, they have nothing to do the next day. They're probably going to be open to a couple of chats. It was still, like I said, I was the last person to interview Apex. I got 2 minutes exactly, 4 questions. And when, because at first I was going to talk to Robin, like Rops. Then I was going to talk to Mezzi, and then they said, is it fine if you take Apex instead? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. I have questions for everybody. They're like, you get 2 minutes. I was the last person. And when Apex finished talking to La Source, I was stood next to him. I can't remember if I said this at the start of the episode or in the BTS.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, Matt, the manager, walks up and he says, 4 questions. And Apex went, oh! and yeah, I can understand that. It was close to midnight at that point. So that's... like, that was a bit sucky. So my first experience in a press room, what I heard from everybody else who was there was like, they said this is bad. A lot of other events are much better than this, in the way they're set up, in the way they handle the teams, in the way this relationship is done. And also, so yeah, I'm still happy I was there, but that was basically what the press room was like. So if you didn't see a lot of content if you knew there was press there, if you didn't see a lot coming out of the outlets you knew were present at the time, it wasn't their fault. it was just circumstances of how it all worked out, and yeah, it was still a cool experience. But yeah, it was mostly I thought it was a shame that Spirit didn't take anything, which I think is a shame. But it is also a bit classic Spirit. I get the feeling they want to control the narrative around them in a way.
Yeah,
I get the feeling
about
a lot of Russian teams. Yeah. A lot of Russian teams, I get the feeling they want to put out a vlog explaining their side of the event. They want to do interviews with Russian outlets so they can ask. I'm not going to say like they this sounds political. They can ask the questions they want to be asked. It's more so they can be like, I know a Russian or Russian speaking outlet is going to know what the audience will appreciate in a way which is positive for Spirit. In a weird way, because I was going to ask a lot of questions. If I got the chance to talk to Spirit, I was going to ask a lot of questions about why is Y Engineer suddenly working? What's been the key? What's been the difference? I was gonna ask you. We saw a lot of frustration out of you after map 1. Can you explain what happened? How are you feeling? Like I was gonna ask, tough questions. I was gonna, I'd frame them in a good way. It's an opportunity to say to actually bring out good information. We're probably gonna get this information, but it's gonna be filtered through Spirit themselves, and that is a bit of shame. And yeah, I overall I'm not complaining. It was very fun. But from what I've heard from the people who were there, who are a bit more well versed in this kind of stuff, it could have been a lot better, and we could have seen a lot more content coming out of there. But yeah, that was situation. If you want to see what it looked like, Heku has a couple of videos up on Twitter where she's just on like a pan like this. But yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, the press room. You could see it from outside the stadium. Like you could kind of see into it. I think like it's a big window that looked outside, and we walked past it at one point, and we were like, "There's Quack." But no, it was a shame that teams really don't make the most, or it is a shame rather that teams often don't seem to want to make the most of this kind of thing, where it's like, I don't know. I think there's more value to you just talking to the media than, presenting your fixed narrative of how things you want them to be. Especially, I guess for the players, they don't always have the most choice, or rather, they might have choice. And then when you tell them you can just go back to the hotel, we don't want to talk to these people, they're all going to rush to the hotel because it's something I don't think they all fully want to harness or understand how to, because you really can, as a player, shape the scene to your favor through these interviews. I just don't think the teams want them to do that. But yeah, I'm not going to ponder on it too long because I don't have much to add.
That is the thing, yeah.
And it's already 3:00.
I have one slight thing to add. There were a lot of people in the press room exhibiting fan behaviors, and I get that there's some team staff in there with a press badge who are like from Navi and they're doing Navi content in the press room. But there were also some people, like I know there were some people, and I get it, I'm also new there. I was very much shaking after talking to Apex because that was amazing. But there were a lot of people who were wearing Navi jerseys during the Navi game. I saw people like asking to take pictures with the players or like getting their press badges signed by Zaiwu. And I can understand that behavior, but from what I've heard, there's press rooms with other TOs, you would lose your press badge if you did that because you are supposed to be entirely impartial. I was told, do not cheer for anybody. That's why I was sat in the crowd, and like the only time I had a reaction was when we had an insane play, and my reaction was always, that's crazy. It was never go FaZe or go Navi or whatever. It helped that I didn't have a strong opinion either way. Like, I'll cheer for Bollan, but I'm not like massively a Mouse fan in that sense. So in that way, it was a bit it did feel a little bit weird to see somebody like walking around like, can you please sign my Monty jersey? Wonderful. Can you please sign my Monty jersey? That did feel a bit strange. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, as Child said, if Starlight didn't make them do the funeral segment, they might have been more open to interviews. Yeah, that's true. There was a funny moment actually. At the end of the final, all the FaZe players came down to the press room, and as we were just waiting around, seeing if we get a chat, and then somebody just said, looked up at the monitor and was like, "Why is Kerrigan doing an interview on stage?" It's like because we didn't have the sound on, and he was like, turn the fucking interview, like turn the stream on your fucking phone just in case Kerrigan is retiring right now, like just in case. But, and then it turned out it was just nothing. They were just talking to him for some reason. But that would have been. It was kind of like a holy shit. Is Kerrigan retiring? Like live on stage? Was this his last major ever? It was a bit funny. I just wanted to share that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that brings us to the show with a lost intro, an intro that will be found eventually or remade. It is time for sing it in the chat. Cock of the week. Quackget, what is this you've linked? Because I haven't clicked on it.
Right. Do you know? Are you aware of the existence of the Russian Counter-Strike YouTuber Hikes? You might not be.
It might not be in some anomaly videos like years ago.
Yes, I was about to say.
He does his own shit now.
Yeah. I think he's done his own shit for a long time, but yeah, he was like an anomaly guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this is just something I caught during the week, which is it's a weird thing. It's a very petty thing. He's put out a video called, I'm sorry about that, called "I exposed my biggest hater, CS2," and it's basically just a video of him kind of stalking this random Twitter user who keeps commenting under all of his tweets, kind of stalking him and trying to expose him by like finding all of he's finding his Steam account, finding his Leafify stats, saying that he's shit at the game, watching his demos and being like critical about his gameplay, and using that as like a dunk on his biggest hater, which is just a guy who says that he's a cunt. Because I think a lot of the time he is. It's just a really petty thing. Like, imagine if I did this to Asylum. Like, it's not. It's very petty. It is very petty.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
What?
So, very briefly, like, it could have been Kassad for the Fallen thing, but I think that's been done to death. Today's Cock of the Week is, or this week's Cock of the Week is simply just hikes. Because Jesus Christ, you let a Twitter account called Duck585 get into your head? What the fuck are you? How soft are you, bro? What the fuck? To the point where you're sitting watching his demos from matchmaking and you're like roasting him for not being a very good CS player. Neither am I. Neither are you. Neither is most people in this chat, probably. So, like, so funny.
I now have to go and watch this fucking piece of shit. Like, what is this video?
Yeah. It's such a weird thing to consider to be like such a huge dunk, where he's just like, this guy just doesn't like Hikes. Hikes is a bit of an asshole. Like, as far I don't interact with his stuff very often, but when I do, I get the feeling that it's very like it's unnecessarily like abrasive in a way. He is a bit like fuck you in a lot of ways. Bit of an asshole, just a bit of a dickhead, and a bit of a cock, basically. And this guy apparently thinks so as well. Duck585, and he's doing it to the point where he just, I'm
just amused because I've got the video on now on mute in the background, and he's showing off like screenshots of this Duck guy's tweets. It's not very complicated, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Did he really
it's
make
not
a video just complaining about free engagement? Like, the guy's not even like dissecting his videos. He's just calling him the R word. Sorry, this is my channel. A retard over and over again. That's just all it is. It's so basic.
Yeah, Duck is just a reply guy on Twitter. Like, he just posts stuff for fun. He's not that big of a guy. Like, it's not like he gets a massive amount of engagement. He's not Polop. He's not. Yeah. He's not one of these guys who gets huge engagement out of shit posting. He's just a random guy who basically nobody except for the very.
I'm sorry, I just sent Quack a screenshot from the video where he's got Hex, for some reason, has quote tweeted a video screenshot that says, "I had sex with, I didn't." Duck responds, "We know." And I'm just like, this is the guy. This is a guy who made a video.
This is a guy who got into your head.
This is what got you. This is pretty funny.
Yes.
This is peak comedy.
Like, talk about,
to be honest.
Like I said, I could have mentioned the Kassad thing. I could have mentioned him being like, "Oh, I got to the professor. I'm in his head." No. This guy is in his head. This guy's in his head, and he didn't even mean to do it. He didn't even mean to do it at all. It's just happened.
This is so funny.
Yeah. Funny guy.
I mean, some of it, I guess I stumbled into the parts that actually annoyed him, which is the parts where he basically just is endlessly a dick about him being Russian.
All right.
But yeah, like,
I think he himself has also been a big dick about being a Russian. Like, I'm looking through his stuff. It's a lot of
making fun of Zelensky and shit in a way which I don't appreciate either. But
Yeah,
like,
but
yeah,
I mean, it's not just calling him a retard, but
no.
it's mostly that. Like, why?
I don't know, man.
Why are you posting screenshots like, look at this abuse, and it's just the word brain dead?
It's
not
very,
even-
it's very
It's not
funny.
even complicated.
It's very funny to consider as well that this is just a guy, like this guy is a YouTuber, like a decent sized YouTuber, with 500,000 subscribers for quite some time, and this guy got in his head to the
With
point he made a
one-word
10-minute
answers.
video. Yeah, so funny.
This is pretty funny.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Okay, I love it. It's a funny cock of the week. He's not been that much of a cock. I mean, he has wasted like 10, 11 minutes, but hey, it's the first time he's ever got me to click on a video. So
Yep.
I guess that works. To be fair, I don't really follow any content creators who are non-competitive scene. Like, I don't really follow the non-competitive scene. Like, I don't care what the odds of opening a knife are, or how the trade-up contracts like ended up working out for my financial benefit of the. I don't care. That stuff to me is dorky. Not talking about strats and competitive play. That's not dorky. Yeah, but yeah, no, I'm amused by this. I'm tickled. It's not that cocky. It's just it tickles me. But okay, let's get into the Eternal Shuffle. I do have other things to do, like eat today, so I have yet to do that. No, I had one cream egg, but still. Anyway, the Eternal Shuffle. It's we got a few reports. We got a few confirmed. We got a few reports that are basically confirmed. Quack Kit, I need to start grading some stuff, but let's start with a rumor that obviously has no grade.
This is a rumor. Jimpat leaving Mouse. Which was something Sponge said on Confirmed, I think.
Yeah.
He didn't say where he would be going. He said he would be going somewhere else, which like obviously he says that, but he did say, I think he did hint towards knowing what one or some of the possible destinations was, but he didn't say. Last year he was linked to Falcons. That move specifically fell apart because Munisi wasn't going to Falcons. Now Munisi is in Falcons. The move could be back on. And also Testes was shit during the major. So for the sake of argument, I'm going to ask you to grade minus Testes plus Jimpat.
I mean, it's kind of gotta be a B plus A sort of grade. Like, it's the thing is they're already pretty damn good. Falcons, right? So making a change to it could be a problem in the future.
True.
But it should, in theory, in terms of Counter-Strike theory, work. Like, you're taking out a more aggressive piece, a piece who likes to entry on T side when you don't really need one. Because you have an IGL who can do the IGL thing, you have a Kyosuke, you have a Nico. What you need was another late game player. And Jimmy's been that. He's not been as explicitly good this year. I think a part of that is literally just Spinks taking some of the closing responsibilities off him. I'll maintain that argument. So, no, for Falcons it is technically a theoretical upgrade, but it's just yet to be seen.
Yet to be
We're
seen.
not even sure it's
Indeed.
happening.
No. But let's say it's Falcons and it's going to be Testes, and it's based on past rumors. It sounds like it could be Falcons anyway. So yeah, it's my most educated guess. Anyway, this is a confirmed move. Pain have cut DGT and Davideus. And I don't know about you. I think this could be extremely interesting depending on who they pick up.
Yeah, it could be. I've seen some rumors about certain Brazilian players.
Hmm?
I don't remember who exactly, but we've talked about this, I swear, last week.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I can't remember any names, but yeah, I've just seen speculation.
It's cool. I think it's important to for them to try, because they've looked so flat with this roster. Going for Brazilian, I think, will be a good thing. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I've seen some people say like Lukauzi, Insani, names like that. Personally, I'm not super excited by the prospect of like Lukowski specifically. But there's a couple of guys who I could see being interesting here. I think the fact that Pain are they've been overrated because of making a major semifinal. A bit. They've been top 10 for a large part of the year, but they aren't top 10 probably. Or weren't really even when they were ranked up there. But they have a good foundation. They have Big Zero and NQC, who I think are very exciting. I was excited about the DGT move, which didn't work out. So maybe it's good of them to realize that early. Davideus has been a bit here and there. It's been good enough, but it's like if you can do better, you're gonna do better. So we know Brazilian buyouts are insane. So Insani maybe isn't on the cards. Lukowski I just don't think would be interesting whatsoever because he just hasn't been that good. Since going back to Fluxo. As some people are pretending that he is, apparently. What's your dream move here? If you bring in 2 Brazilians, who would you want it to be?
Into Pain. Insani. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Can I can't put fewer players in, can I?
No,
Like,
no.
obviously that'd be stupid. I don't even know who the other one I want is, because I want Insani in to make some sort of playmaking. I've got Snow, Bigu, and NQZ. I mean, I probably need just like a straight entry. Unless I'm still trying the whole Snow is my straight entry thing, but again, I'm not sure about that. Yeah. I don't know how we balance the roles out, but maybe Lato is the play.
Yeah.
It's Lato or Dumel, depending on which role you want. That's essentially the conclusion. Unless you want hard support, in which case you want Nissim. It's just like take your pick of which role you need out of Legacy. If you are the coach or IGL of this team.
Yeah.
It just depends on how you're trying to build. And yeah, you can always make more moves later, but whatever.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think there's some fun options. Nissim did play in Pain before, on loan before he was called back to Sharks and got back into contract hell. Then he managed to get out and get into Legacy. There's a couple of interesting options. Like I wouldn't even put it past Pain to maybe even try out like you could do some weird things as well. Not too sure about the roles, but like past 6 months, VSM has a 1.30 rating in 158 maps. And as much as VSM is the name of the past, he's 26. It's doable. It's not his career's not over. It's all domestic play, but 130 is 130 over more than 150 maps. So I wouldn't even put it past them to try something like that. I wouldn't even put it past them to try like Venom Zero also exists. Again, not too sure about the roles. Yeah, there's moves to make, I think, which could be somewhat interesting. But yeah, we'll see what happens there, basically. The Legion of Gamers, also known as Gamer Legion, have cut ZTR and they have signed Snacks.
Yeah, so they're Polish.
Yes,
Like,
and they're
just rebuilding Polish. Like it's nothing else to it.
Yeah, because their coach is also taking a break due to burnout, and their intermediate coach then is IMD, who was their assistant coach at that point. Like their interim coach is going to be him. ZTR Snacks, did you see that happening?
Not specifically, but when you look at the logic of what's going to follow, yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah. They've endorsed Snacks before.
Yeah.
Here they go. They go back to the well. I don't think he's a good IGL, but whatever. I'm not the one running the orgs. So fuck it. Y'all keep signing him. Y'all keep not winning. Not my problem.
Can I ask you about this Maui take? He said that Snacks was an upgrade on ZTR in firepower. Do you agree? Like he made it clear that he made it seem like he was a clear upgrade on firepower.
ZTR's been kind of wank.
He has. But I will note that ZTR's KPR and ADR is higher than Snacks was at the end of his stint in G2 and ZTR's current stint in GL. The rating is about the same. His KPR and ADR is a step above.
Yeah, I don't think it's not a take I would try to make. Let's put it that way.
Nope. I think he wrote that to rage bait me specifically. Anyway, NIP, to steal this from TLDR, nothing in Portugal because they have benched you jerks. And they've been rumored for a while to sign Cairn. I've written reported, but it wasn't like a big report. It was a rumor. So Udrix is benched. Cairn is what was reported before. You think?
I'm not a big Ujux fan. So from that side of things, cutting him is always going to be positive for me. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. Not a big fan of him. Ken, I think, is an interesting option. I think I see Inner Circle played a similar enough like style in terms of the pace for him to make sense on T sides with this snappy team. I think he'll add a little bit of more like consistent output, I think, in certain CT roles, because it's not like Udrix is just bad start to finish. It's just he's not good enough for my liking. There's too many dips and misses too many big fights. So yeah, I would take Ken as a risky attempt at an upgrade. I think that's a good. I think it's a good shout in terms of what you need to be better next season. That's one of the moves I'd look for as a Udrix replacement. Ken's a risk. One I would take.
Yep. The big move last night. M80, somewhat surprisingly, decided not to extend the 6-month apparently contract with Hext. And it was pretty much immediately reported that Jaba would be coming in, seeing as he's transfer listed by wildcard. So, yeah, thoughts?
I like Hext. I really like Hext. I really liked how he played on this M80 side. You know, when they brought him in, his performances at like things like Blast London were really impressive. He was sensible as a player for them. Like in a scene of rarely polished looking play, he played surprisingly sensible and properly. So I think it's a weird move to not extend. I also understand they wanted Jaba anyway.
Yeah. From
back when they got him. So, you know, there's aspects of this was always going to happen. So yeah, give me, as a fan of Jaba from when I was profiling him, because you know there's certain things he does very well. I think you can argue he's mechanically in certain ways better than Hext. He's just been a massive choker, not clutch. You know, the things Hext has been in M80.
Yep.
So I like the I don't mind it in terms of, in theory, you're getting maybe a better potential player. Just over right now, I'm just like, Hext was so great. It's just a bit shocking. So it's more, hopefully Hex can get himself onto a team. And off the back of that stint, if he doesn't get kept here, he gets maybe another opportunity. He should get one.
I saw somebody say Nyx for Hext. Not the worst idea.
It's a similar conversation, really, in the end. I think Hext has been slightly better, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, I could see him going back to NRG as well, maybe. Otherwise, I could see him. His manager said he was open to teams in any region. Like some people, I saw Tony said he could go to Heroic. Yeah, wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah, not the worst thing. He could wildcard a rebuilding. Not that I'd want someone to end up on wildcard because of the mess they've been, but still, there's a lot of places that should want Hext.
Yeah. Anyway, we're moving swiftly on because I'm hungry as fuck. Medisport have decided not to continue with Knock as their opera. He was on a short-term contract.
Oh no,
Jorko.
I mean, anyone. They need Norpa, but Nork wasn't that good.
Just go Jorko.
That's just a shame. So, yeah, move on. Good.
I mean, yeah, just fucking go Jorko. BC Game. Nexa is out. Also didn't get his contract extended. Emmy is out. I assume because he was there because of Nexa. And the rumor in several articles is that Simple's contract is rumored to be ending. So I've put it as minus Simple. Because if he signed a short-term contract, I'm not sure he's been willing to extend now that they fell back down to like around the 80s. But so
they've been bad.
Let's just say, where you think BC. What do you think BC Game are without Simple?
Hot garbage. Like they're nothing.
Yeah.
So this is if that is true, it's a dead project. If it's not true, it's still a floundering project. Since Electronic has joined this team, Simple is a 101 rating.
Yeah.
Like, this has just gone so horrifically wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Not a fan. Also, speaking of not a fan of things, NIP Impact don't exist anymore. The roster is gone.
Yeah, that's to be expected as the women's scene slowly dissolves.
Yeah, I think
unfortunate,
it's
but predictable.
one of the more ambitious impact projects. I think NIP were always not supposed to, but destined to be one of the first ones to cut their team. I think like teams like MIBR and Fury are probably going to continue because they have sort of a different. There are some women's events in South America, and I think Big
Yep.
Equipa might continue because I would just assume based on the players who are on there, maybe they're a little bit cheaper. Maybe they don't do as much. Maybe they'll just continue doing what they do without boot camps, basically.
Okay.
But okay, I want to say one thing here. Kiara and Naomi, they said that their next step, and women's players always say this when successful women's players always say this when their team ends. Their next step will be to play with male teams, and they specifically said that they wanted to compete like an academy level. And I've pulled up some events from that when they've played in mixed events. Now, obviously, it's noteworthy. They've finished in last place in all four of these events that I've picked out.
Of course.
Yes, which is unfortunately the case. They just sort of kept losing. But these four specifically, Kiara actually had a decent rating. Like her teammates were down in the dumps, obviously. But across however many maps they played, let me just see where she is in the rating list. I did pick these out because Kiara, 4 maps, 118 rated as the only positive player on her team. You know, going last place in a group stage where you lost single digits on every map. Here's another one, 116 over 5 maps, where I'm assuming this was the one where they won a map against Eternal Fire. No, they won a map against Imperial Valkyries. Okay, so they did play one inter female game there. But like, okay, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, there are some academies out there who are perfectly happy going for a 22-year-old player. There are academy teams out there who would consider like, okay, you know, you did play decently well on a losing team, even when you're playing mixed opposition. I could see Kiara going to like an NIP, like a young ninjas. You know, the next time they decide that one of their players is dog shit, they're not barely playing HLTV shit anyway. You could probably get away with Kiara being in there, and I think it would be interesting to see. What sort of
but then you start asking yourself, what's the point of this project?
I'm asking myself that already with Young Ninjas or Wildcard Academy, because what's the point of those projects?
The point is to develop a player someone would want to buy off you. So they're clearly not promoting.
I think that's entirely possible in those. Imagine if and when some sort of women's scene does emerge and some sort of women's scene happens. Then you have a player, the only player with significant experience in like a tier one organization's academy team, playing with players who are more experienced and from a different sort of scene. Kiara is suddenly the most valuable women's player in the world. You go for that?
No, I don't think you do.
Probably true. I don't know. I was just floating the idea because she mentioned that's where they wanted to go. Her and her sister.
I appreciate the ambition,
and I can kind of see it. Kiara is extremely talented. Yeah, Kiara is extremely talented. So
in terms of prospective like players to try to make it happen, like they're decent options for trying to compete at that level. But I don't think it's. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think anyone's gonna take the risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Final move. I put this in at the end. This was a heroic cutting youngster. This has been talked about for a while. Signing Jugs out of Foot, or interested in him rather. Will just preface stuff I heard this weekend suggests that that's not true. But let's say it's gonna happen. Do you like that move?
Jugs he's not particularly thrilling as a player oftentimes, but I've always noticed how clutch he's been on Na'Vi Jr. and then Foot. I don't know the lad. Something I've always talked to people about is that to really, like, especially when I'm signing a support player or I'm signing a young player, one of the things I need to do is, as myself, talk to that player and understand that player a bit better in terms of their mentality and what they can bring to a team. So if he's especially if I'm the coach of the team and I want a certain sort of culture shift. If he matches my culture for the team, and he's not, I don't think he's a significantly worse player than Youngster. I think Youngster's got a surprising amount of firepower, but he's, it's not irreplaceable. Yeah, I don't mind the idea. Like if it's a well thought out, well approached sort of move, because I don't think Youngster's been that good. And even though Jugs doesn't, have eye popping numbers and undeniable talent, he's very clutch. He's very composed, at least from the outside looking in. So, no, I don't actually hate it as much as I thought I would. But it's just it's just an interesting idea that I think is a weird rumor as well. Like,
yeah,
but no, I think it'd be a fine move. It just depends on how the coach sees the players as sort of kind of people in that sense.
Yeah, exactly, and that's all the shuffles.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
Right, let's wrap this show up because in 20 minutes I need to go record with Yumi. So that's fun. We've been here 3 hours.
Sorry, Yumi. That's partially my fault.
Yes. Prospects of the week. I have gone with Makaze. He's not currently really a prospect. He's on Na'Vi playing the major, but he was a prospect. He is still very young. He's still very fresh. We still give him more leash and more leeway than we do other players who are, more established. So yeah, I'm going to pick Makaze. Fantastic showing up in the playoffs again, time and time again. He's just better in the big games for Na'Vi. One of the few big game players they have. It seems. It's just a shame they don't make it there as often as they need to. But this weekend was fantastic for him.
It was indeed, and I have no qualms about that being your prospect of the week. He was and is a prospect, obviously, and he was very much a valuable player during the whole major. Somewhat, I won't say somewhat surprisingly, but it is surprising when a major rookie has a very good performance at the start of in their first major. So yeah, this is at times he's been talked about as the next Donk. Maybe he isn't the next Donk quite, but in terms of being good from the get-go, pretty good. Yeah, it's a passing mark for sure, and with very good performance. I've gone for the other major debutant to impress this weekend. It's Jacob. Jacob was once again a surprise for me, especially very much a surprise during this event. As a whole, started off very slow. Started off wondering why is this guy on this team. We talked about it last week. Absolutely switched up. Managed to get going and managed to put in some really good performances. He's been a pistol god with one of the highest pistol round in all stages of the major as a whole, one of the highest pistol round ratings in the entire event, up there next to his teammate Frozen with him. And just been absolutely excellent for an excellent turnaround for a player who was, like I said, very much struggling at the start, started to really shape up. Even was big in the stage games. Like he's not up there with like Twist and Frozen, but he's not by any stretch of the imagination bottoming out in a way which was hugely to the detriment, especially for a player who has had a very rapid rise to the top and who definitely didn't expect to be here at the start of the year. Has impressed me. And despite, like I said in one of the previous shows, he was going to get cut after New Year's because he just isn't through no fault of his own. It's impossible to perform like this when you're a rookie in phase. I was wrong about that. I think he's going to stay, and I think he's going to keep developing. Insane player. 2026 is going to be a good year for him.
Yeah, so the playoff run was not that great for him. He got, he had a couple bum maps that really tank his entire rating. Like he's a 0.38 in the final overpass, a 0.47 on Dust 2, and that kind of drags it all down. Because he's a 0.92 for the playoffs, so you're like, the fuck is Quack talking about? Because obviously that's dreadful. Shut the fuck up. But no, he actually has really good maps thrown in that are like, that's why you remember him as having a decent run. That's why people have kind of mistakenly ascribed like a better rating in their heads than he actually had for the playoffs. Because he had good highlights. And he had a good series against Maus, a great map of Inferno against Na'Vi, and a really a good nuke against Vitality.
Yeah.
Not remarkably good, but good. And so that's kind of the bright points from a player who's so fresh,
Yeah.
so young, so much pressure. Yeah, not a bad playoff run.
Yeah, and that .92 in playoffs is literally just the final, because the two games before that, his series average for both the quarter and the semi is positive. It is above 1.0. The first one was 111, and the second one I think was one. It was lower. It was 1.0 something.
Might be
For
10
a major
flat,
rookie,
or 101. It's really low.
101. It was 101. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's really low, but it's still second best on his team in the series they won. It's
Yeah, in
like,
that sense, yeah.
yeah, it's like for a major rookie on a team which I thought was going to be extremely challenging for him to play in as a rookie on FaZe specifically. I'm impressed. Good job. Good major for Jacob. And he can only go upwards from here.
Onwards and upwards, the only two options.
Onwards and upwards.
Yeah, we'll see about FaZe and what they do coming into next year, and how they look and how they play. But for now, a surprising major run, kind of the cherry on top of a pretty disastrous shithole of a year for FaZe. You know, it's a shit Sunday, but hey, the cherry was nice. So yeah, that's going to be our show. Thank you for tuning in. If you were watching the VOD, you made it this far. Thank you. You're our hero. But yeah, we're going to see you next week with probably some more major related stuff. And then I think we're going to keep it, like, it's going to be after Christmas, before New Year's, roughly, I think is probably when we're going to do the full Retake the Year. Like, probably Monday the 29th.
Yeah, probably.
Will be Retake the Year, where we will pick AWP of the Year. We'll choose our top 20 or 25s or whatever we end up selling on this year. We'll talk about different roles, different positions. We're going to have viewer Q&A stuff going on. It's going to be a massive episode. Last year's lasted 3 hours, and that was by design. This year's might be even longer. So, yeah, look forward to that. Remember to become a member if you want to ask a question in the Q&A. That's members only. But otherwise, it'll be a big wrap up of the year from us, and also I'll also probably roast my own shows and stuff. It'll be great. But all right, we'll see you next time with fixed voices and better health. Bye bye.